Today, the final curtain comes down on a drama-filled 2011 American Le Mans Series.
Guy Smith has got very, very feisty. He sniffs blood here at the head of the field. No, Villander, you can't do that there. And Bergmeister's fighting back. This is going to end in tears. This is going to end in the penalty box for one on both of these drivers.
Bill Auberlen and Tommy Milner are going to have that.
Could see that coming.
A million years.
This is the final act of a 9-part drama that began back in March. For two teams today, it's a celebration, a chance to end a championship season on a high note. But for others, title glory is yet to be earned, and pressure sits heavy on the shoulders of the hunted and hunters alike. Championships, invitations to the world's greatest endurance race, and a chance to beat your rival one last time. That's what's on the line at the 14th running of Petit Le Mans.
So 1, 2, and 3 in GT. Now this is how to win championships.
ESPN and the American Le Mans Series are proud to bring you coverage of today's running of the 14th annual Petit Le Mans from Road Atlanta. Today's telecast is brought to you by Chevrolet and America's premier sports car, Corvette. Well, it's a beautiful autumn day in the hills just north of Atlanta, Georgia, where a record crowd has turned out to watch a record field of entrants for the 14th running of Petit Le Mans. Over the last 13 years, this event has become more than just a motor race. It's an international happening as some of the best sports car teams from around the world have gathered for what is sure to be an epic contest. 10 hours or 1,000 miles of multi-class racing, whichever occurs first. The best of the best are here, so let's learn more. We'll start with the fastest class, LMP1, with Jamie Howe.
8 weeks ago today, Anthony Davidson was having surgery for a broken collarbone. But today at Petit Le Mans, he is starting his Peugeot 908 on the pole. Anthony, coming into the United States for the second time this year, what does it mean to this team to be able to start up front?
It's everything at a race like this. You know, it's such a busy race. 53 cars out on circuit, 2.5 miles long. It's going to be hectic, and to start the race from pole was pretty vital.
You guys might be starting on pole. Starting right next to you, though, is Audi and Kelly Savas. They won at Le Mans.
Jamie, the Audi-Peugeot rivalry is a classic in sports car racing. Peugeot had the edge in qualifying, but for Marcel Fessler, who will be starting the #1 Audi, what do you have to do to assure that this team gets a victory here on its U.S. debut of the R18?
Yeah, it's quite not as simple, but one of the simplest things is try to have a car in one piece until the end. I think with the traffic, this will be the biggest issue, going through the traffic as fast as possible without any risk. And if we have no contact at all, then I think we are really good for win this race. But I tell you, with this amount of cars, it's really difficult.
Should be an interesting start with Peugeot, Audi, Peugeot, Audi. Thanks, Marcel.
Yeah, thank you very much.
In the American Le Mans Series, 2 drivers' championships have yet to be decided in the 2011 season. Both the GT Challenge and the LMP Challenge championships are up for grabs. In GT Challenge, Tim Pappas with a 21-point lead over Spencer Pumpelly and Duncan Indy. If Pappas and his team can finish 70% of this event, they will score enough points to take home the championship. That would be the second championship in a row for Tim Pappas. But in LMP Challenge, things are much, much closer. Ricardo Gonzalez, Gunnar Jeanette only 3 points behind Eric Lux, and that is going to be a battle throughout 10 hours or 1,000 miles here at Petit Le Mans. For more on the LMP Challenge story, let's go to Rick DeBrule.
Well, for Gunnar Jeanette, it's deja vu all over again. Last year, he came into this race tied for points. All he had to do was win, and you won the championship. Couldn't pull it off. You're in the same situation, similar, just down by 3 points. Have you thought about last year and what it meant for this year?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously, last year we were tied coming in, and we were in the lead when our steering rack unfortunately let us down. The whole core Autosport guys, particularly our mechanics on the 06 car, have gone over this thing so many times with, you know, the extra fine-tooth combs. So it's an endurance race. You never know what can happen, but all we can do is do our best, and hopefully Dirty Deborah here takes care of us today.
For Gunnar Jeanette, it's not just a case of beating his competition, his guy he's got 3 points behind. He's also got to beat all those 53 other cars.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Till, along with sports car ace Bill Adam, former race winner here, and former factory Corvette driver Johnny O'Connell. And we talk about a record field here. 53 cars will start at Petit Le Mans, this very challenging racetrack. Bill, from a prototype driver standpoint, what does that mean?
Well, it's huge, and I can use an analogy with the NFL. A week ago, I watched Darren McFadden of the Oakland Raiders shred the New York Jet defense, but he was working hard to avoid contact. The prototype drivers have to do exactly that. But they're going to be having this battle between Audi and Peugeot all day long, and they're going to be trying to go by these 3, 4, 5-car GT battles, Johnny.
Yeah, Bill, I got to tell you, as a lifelong New York Jet fan, I don't like that analogy. You know, these GT car guys are in an incredible battle, and the last thing you want is going into turn 1, having a prototype come underneath you and push you offline. You know, you want the same thing you don't want have happening in turn 12. So you're going to see the GT guys today be very protective of their inside lines, especially in turn 1 and turn 12.
Let's take a look at this Road Atlanta circuit with Bill Adam and our Porsche track description.
Well, at 2.54 miles, the 12 turns are long, fast, and most all connected together. Particularly challenging. Look at 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is an incredible high-speed sequence of turns where some of the prototype cars will be exceeding 140 miles an hour as they dance down through this section of track. Turn 7 leads onto this long back straight, and at the end of this 185-miler, the best passing spot into turn 10. It is a challenging track at Road Atlanta.
And it will be especially challenging today. Plenty of stories yet to be told, plenty of stories yet to unfold from here at Road Atlanta. It's the 14th running of Petit Le Mans. It is a record crowd. It is a record field. It promises to be a good one. When we come back, John Hindhaugh, Jeremy Shaw, they'll bring you the call.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G Oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
There once was a hungry road that wouldn't let drivers get very far. It wore out their tires, forcing them to buy new ones time and time again. Then along came the Michelin Man who proved the right tire changes everything. With long-lasting tires in place, those drivers were back on the road to saving money. Michelin Hydro Edge tires last up to 33,000 miles longer than a leading competitor. Michelin, a better way forward.
When you think about it, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Hundreds of hours to shave fractions of a second. Hundreds of hours in precision engineering. Analyzing. Perfecting. Pushing the limits of speed and safety. Patron Racing reminds you, when getting behind the wheel, know your limits. We do.
Registering a website address has never been easier or cheaper because now there's Name Silo. Everybody needs a website address. Register your business name and get instant credibility. Got a hot new idea for a product or service? Register it immediately and protect your name and your children's names before somebody else owns them online. With the lowest everyday prices on the web, getting your website address is just a few simple clicks away. Name Silo. Cheap, easy, and secure. Register or transfer a website address and get your name on an ALMS race car.
Here at Road Atlanta, and in the next 10 hours we're going to see some fantastic battles from the prototype at the head of the field. But Jeremy Shaw, that's not all the action. The GT field is possibly one of the best we've ever seen.
I think you're absolutely right there, and it's incredibly close. They shattered the lap record in qualifying for the GT cars, and that record has stood since 2008. The other amazing thing to me is the fact the Corvettes, who won this race last year, admittedly on the last lap when the Ferraris ran out of fuel, but they're a whole second a lap faster than they were 1 year ago, and they're 8th and 9th on the starting grid in GT.
And it's incredibly tight there. These guys don't have a qualifying setup. What, 10 cars pretty much within a second?
That's right, 10 cars within a second, 4 different chassis in there as well. It's going to be incredibly close in GT, and it's going to be a fantastic day of racing all the way up and down the field.
Well, don't take our word for it. Let's get down to the GT battle now with Kelly Stavist.
Well, the AF Corsa team has set the pole in each of its U.S. appearances this year. First at Sebring, now here at Petit Le Mans. Pierre Caffer, you guys finished 5th in Sebring. How can you improve on that here at Petit?
Well, I have to say, first of all, we start with a 430 in Sebring. Here we are with a 458, and it's just an awesome car. And to drive for Ferrari and to be here with AF Course is just fantastic as a driver. You just can enjoy the car, and you know you can to concentrate on your line, and all the people have everything under control. And Jimmy yesterday in the qualifying did a great job, and thanks to our mechanic who prepared the car so well.
One of the teams they'll be battling is BMW, and Rick de Bruyne is there.
That's right. We've got the Drivers' Championship that's been decided. Let's see, the Team Championship has been decided. But you got that little thing called a Manufacturer's title. That is weighing on you. What are the team orders going into this?
Oh, well, it's a little tough because you want to win the manufacturer so bad, but I can still get second in the championship if I beat Corvette. We got this Crown Plaza BMW, which is rocket fast. It's up front. We got a great driver lineup, but you never know how it's going to come down. We want to win. I want to win this race. I want to say that car 56 is going to do the grunt work. I wish. But American Le Mans Series, you never know how it's going to come down. This is the most competitive, crazy series I've ever been in. Let's wait till 9 hours, and then the gloves will come off, and we will go for that top step on the podium.
Bill Oberlin ready to win second in the championship if he can. He's got his tone ready to go. We'll see how he can do. Let's head up to Jamie Howe.
In the GT Challenge category, the championships are both still open. In the driver's standings, Black Swan leads by 19 points, and in the teams, it's down to only 7 points. So Spencer Pompelli, in order for yourself and TRG to stay in this, you have to win today. How much pressure does that put on you?
Well, it's a lot of pressure, but I think a lot of it, too, is going to depend on if the 54 car makes it to 70%. And a lot of the Drivers' Championship is really out of our control. We would like to win the Team Championship, too. That's a little closer. We have to get both of these cars in first and second, and I think we can do that today because we got a good group. But it's been a great season either way. We've had a bunch of success. It's been awesome having Fox River Coffee with us and all the guys here at TRG. And it's a home race. My lovely wife Lindsay's here with all her friends, and got a lot of support here, being that is where I live. So we're looking forward to a good day.
As Spencer said, that 70% is something we'll be talking about all day because you have to finish 70% in order to score points.
Well, the number 4 Corvette qualified 8th, certainly not where this team wanted to be, especially since it's still fighting for that second place in the championship points. So, Oliver, Gavin, if you guys are down a little bit on speed, how do you make up for it throughout the duration of this race?
Well, you make up for it with having a great team. Everybody here in Corvette Racing is super focused. They've been brilliant with their pit stops all year. Our guys have been practicing super hard. And, this race is an awful lot about just keeping it clean, just being smart and sensible with all the traffic out there. It's going to be extremely hard, 53 cars on the racetrack all together, all battling over the same piece of tarmac. But I've got a great crew, got great drivers driving with me today, so we're looking forward to it. We'd like it was a little bit warmer, but it is what it is, same for everybody. But we're looking forward to a good 1,000 miles.
All right, thanks, Ollie.
Gavin with Kelly Stavis down there. What's still to be decided? Well, in LMPC, drivers and teams still up for grabs, and my goodness, only 5 points if you add them both together. That basically makes life very interesting and easy for us because it's whoever finishes first between those people that you see there. Pretty much have got it won. A little bit different in the manufacturers with Porsche, what a 22-point deficit there. Here, again, in GTC, a little bit bigger gaps, but just -7 TRG to Black Swan Racing in the teams. That is eminently doable in terms of making it up. Now, it's not all been sweetness and light for people this week, and even at this late stage there's been problems and miscommunications because we've got a raft of cars that are starting in the pit lane. The Falcon tyres, Porsche didn't get out in time. The 055 level 5, again a mistake from them, Genoa Racing. But look at this, the 55 in that category is should have been the pole sitter, and Dyson Racing with an engine change as well. And the WD next to the 062, maybe the biggest story of the day already, out on the warm-up run to the flag this morning, or to the grid rather, actually hammered the car into the wall coming out of turn number 7, and that car has been withdrawn. Quite remarkable.
Yeah, quite a lot of damage to the car, particularly the left rear corner on that Ferrari was badly damaged. We've seen relatively light impacts in several occasions this year, causing a lot of suspension damage. That car out, but we're ready to go.
The 14th annual Petit Le Mans, powered by Mazda, has a green flag, and it's the Peugeots and the Audis battling already as they go side by side into turn number 1 and through turn number 1 as the fireworks go off. Well, it's advantage Audi and Peugeot as they go over the top of the rise. And look at this. That's a good start by the Oak Racing car. The first of the petrol-powered cars, with Premat at the wheel, is up into 4th position, and he's already hassling around the back of the second Audi. So a slightly tardy start there by the number 10 of Nicolas Lapierre in the Oreca. That's the last outing for the Oreca, and the car, of course, that won at Sebring.
Yeah, and good start also for Adrian Fernandez, I think, in the Lowe's 007 Aston Martin. But look at Premat there. Yeah, he's real all over the back of the second of the Audis as they come onto the back straight away here for the first time.
And that's
Tom. Crowd.
Yeah, big crowd. Not in. Listen, if anybody else wanted to come here and camp, they would have had to bring some liquid soap and a shoehorn to get them in. This morning at 6 o'clock, it was packed, and still people are finding spaces by the fence as Tom Christensen is being hassled by the petrol engine car. And a little further ahead, Marcel Fessler has Frank Montani to contend with as Sebastian Bourdais starting the pole-sitting car. Pole time set by Anthony Davidson, but he will take a little rest and let that shoulder heal just a little bit more. On board with Audi number 2 of Tom Christensen going over the top of the rise. More noise inside the car than there is outside. That car is virtually silent. 145, 150 miles an hour as he approaches turn 5, down into 3, down into gear 3, accelerating. Barely hear that engine in the GT category. It's been a good start by the BMWs, and the leader is still the 51 AF Corsa of Giancarlo Fisichella, who qualified ahead of both the BMWs. It's 56 from 55, and then the 045 is, of course, the Flying Lizard. Check the top of the screen for the starting grids as they're scrolling across, and we'll keep you updated with the positions and the gaps on here on ESPN3 throughout the race. This GT battle, Jeremy, as we were talking on the grid earlier on, and there's a change in the lead there because Joey Hand has got through and got by Fisichella in the AF Corsa Ferrari. That is Fisichella normally very sharp on the starts. That's a pretty good first lap for Joey Hunt.
Yeah, is it Dirk Vernon that's leading the class there? I think it is, but it's so close there, and that's going to be, I think, a highlight of the race, this GT battle. There's nothing to choose between the cars at the front there, no, I think it is Dirk Vernon who's leading there ahead of the Ferrari, but both BMWs right there, as they have been all week long, John. I mean, the BMWs, they were the team to beat, well, they've been the team to beat all season long on both sides of the Atlantic, but Jimmy Bruni really snuck in that lap there in qualifying. It's a great effort for him to put that Ferrari on the pole.
I wrote down here on a piece of paper, because it's cold, 2 words: BMW tyres, question mark. But it seems as if it hasn't been a problem. And here's how the 55 Crown Plaza BMW of Dirk Vernon made that pass for the lead.
Well, cold tyres or not, I mean, the Dunlop tyres on the BMW clearly up to temperature very quickly, and a perfect move there. That moves himself, kind of got the slipstream there down to the inside and makes a clean run into the turn 10 chicane.
Now this is a replay of the green flag, and look at everybody streaming through across the start and finish line. One of the Jaguars going right up the inside of the 44 Flying Lizard there into turn 1. Did he make the pass? Yes, he did. Squeezing through.
And the Jaguars, they both had problems during the week, but they did run properly yesterday in qualifying. All the drivers there fairly happy with the car.
The traffic congestion is something that these teams have been worried about all week long, but when I was talking to Anthony Davidson on the grid, he told me that from the time that the cars started in practice sessions and this past weekend on Sunday, all the way to the final official practice session yesterday, that it feels like the GT cars and the prototypes have learned to coexist a little bit better. They know which part of their mirrors to look in to see if somebody's coming up behind them, which is going to be important because Alan McNish told me, according to their calculations, they will be passing 15 to 17 cars every single lap.
And let's not forget, they've got a lot less horsepower, the prototype, the diesels, than they had 1 year ago. Probably 150 horsepower less than they had 1 year ago. So that makes getting through the traffic
a lot of these
all the more
GT
difficult.
teams talking about that larger restrictor from BMW, as we saw him got the jump there at the start. But when you talk to the team, they want to talk about those Dunlop tires. Bill Oberlin saying they bought a whole slew of different compounds, and they think the ones they chose for qualifying yesterday, which is what they have to use in this race, were spot on for the track temps. He said throughout the race you might see us changing the compound on one tire at a time as the track temperatures go up throughout the day and then cool off down at night. But they're really, really confident on their tire strategy.
Thanks. Let's just update you on a couple of things. According to the timing and scoring, we haven't seen yet the 65 Lotus Evora out, Jeremy. Has just gone out on the back of the grid.
No, it's just running last.
Ah, right. Okay. That's
which is a surprise to see Johnny Mollum at the very tail end of the field. Well, the car we didn't see that. We knew the 062 wasn't going to start, but we thought that the number 36 car for Genoa Racing was going to sort of take its position as first reserve, and that car's not shown on the scoring.
I wonder if they'd already sort of decided that
Well,
if they
maybe.
weren't going to get in, that was that. On board with the Flying Lizards, number 045 this weekend, and that is up into 4th position in GT. Ahead of us is Joey Hand in the BMW, and behind the camera car is the 59 car, one of the luxury racing Ferraris that are in here with the ILMC. Remember, ALMS final round, ILMC penultimate round, and while we've got a moment before it all goes mad again with the Corvettes hunting together in their usual close formation, we should mention that the ILMC championships, Jeremy, particularly in GT, and indeed, well, prototypes is a little more cut and grind at the head of it, but in GT, still things to play for BMW and Ferrari.
You're right, and Peugeot, really all they have to do now, having got the pole, yes, they really have to do is sort of finish. If they finish, they should tie up the manufacturer's classification in the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup. But you're right, no, in GT and in GTE, it's a lot closer, and certainly there's quite a bit to play for there.
Coming through the fields, the site of the 16 Mazda Lola, the Dyson car. Remember, this car had an engine change. Had to start from the pit lane.
Yeah, and that once again they think he's already up to 30th place.
See that you say that and you go, right, really? Look, he's passed 23 cars in 5 laps.
It's fantastic, isn't it? But you know, they think the cool temperatures this morning. I spoke to Chris Dyson just before the start of the race. The crew was thrashing away. They had about an hour or so to get it ready for the start of the race, and you wouldn't have thought that was possible a couple of weeks ago, but they did it a couple of weeks ago, so they've done it again. But they think it's the cooler temperatures this morning that is causing them the problem. You know, the engine mapping on these cars now is absolutely critical. They're trying to get the best fuel consumption they can and make it as economical as possible. But because of that, you know, maybe for the cooler conditions, it's not quite so conducive for longevity in the piston life, basically. So they've had a bit of a problem there this morning. They've changed the engine, and they think they're good to go now for the race. But again, an excellent job by Dyson Racing to get that car onto the grid with the warm-up being, only less than 2 hours before the start of the race.
I wonder if that's going to be their standard operational practice now.
Really.
Do the warm-up, change the engine. They've done it a couple of times already. Just look at the additional downforce grip, the aero grip, as we go on board with the 16 car, and just carving its way through the S's because it's just able to take so much more pace through turn 5, up through the gearbox, and
got himself ahead of all the GT cars.
Yeah,
now,
that's good news, isn't it?
Yeah, because I was going to say, here come the leaders now, working their way through the traffic. On lap 3, Sebastian Bourdais at the front of the field, who pulled out a 2 or 3 second margin there. He turned a lap of 1 minute 08.840. That was the fastest lap of the race so far. Now, though, once they got into traffic, they're regularly doing 1 minute 13s and 14s, and that is what we're going to be seeing for the bulk of this afternoon and evening.
Now, and we said we thought the 16 car had done decently well. Well, this is the leaders coming through the same part of the field that we've just seen Chris Dyson coming through. Chris Dyson almost a lap down. He's just about to lose the lead lap, despite the fact that he's had a cracking start to the race. Here are the 2 leading diesels with Bourdais and Fessler on board with Fessler across the line. Going into turn 1, almost 160 miles an hour as he turns in. Oh, down 2 gears now. He was flat in 6th through there, at least the Audis were during the qualifying session, down to 3. This is very tight indeed, and it's dangerous times for the leader as we've got traffic, and that traffic is Chris Dyson, and that is not going to be all that easy for these guys to go by. Presumably Chris will have his wits about him as they come down to turn number 7. The bright white lights are flashing from the Peugeot, and is this an opportunity for Marcel Fessler in the number 1 Audi to try and out-fumble the Peugeot ahead of him? He gets a good run from turn number 7. He's right up under the rear wing of the French car ahead of him as they have to go wide. He's trying to pick up 2 sets of toes, and it's side by side as they go through the little kink at turn number 9. I think there will be a challenge down the inside. Oh, the Peugeot very nicely has a look at the inside, but there goes Fessler. This is touring car style driving from the German, and that's what he's very good at. Magnificent stuff by both as Fessler goes down the inside in the final corner. My goodness me, that's downforce at work.
Yeah, and that's brilliant driving too. Just great driving by Marcel Fessler there. He closed up that 3-second or so advantage that Bourdais had taken in the clear air, but now that advantage has been eroded. The Audi is in front.
And Sebastien Bourdais was concerned about traffic all along. In fact, he's not comfortable with the number of cars they have at this track. Talking to him the other day, he said, you know, it's just crazy how many they've got. He was concerned not just for the safety, but for what just exactly happened. That someone was going to come along, get in his way, and have him lose a position. Once again, it's still a long way to go. You still got 9 hours, but you don't want to lose any more in the early going than you have to.
Rick de Brill down there in the pit lane. You've just got to wonder, Jeremy, haven't you, with the additional experience that Marcel Fessler has in traffic, has in sports cars and tin tops as well, over Sebastien Bourdais' more open wheel experience. I wonder if that's just helping him out there as he looks for the holes in the traffic. It was a beautifully planned move. And he's clipping the curbs. We noticed in practice and qualifying, didn't we, Jeremy, how the Audi drivers could really hammer the curbs down through the S's.
Yeah, well, they were both doing it. I mean, they are very, very closely matched, but, you know, in the early stages of this race, certainly Audi, they've got a car that seems to work its way through the traffic very, very well indeed.
Well, and the leaders are about to come onto this car, which is the Scott Tucker-driven Level 5 car, and he's pulled out right in front of the leaders, and there they go! Oh, my goodness me! Look at that. I said he was going to pull out right in front of the ladies. I didn't think it would be quite that close, Jeremy.
Yeah, really. You know, for a... how can I put this? Not the best of driving there by Scott Tucker, but you know, he's got himself back in a gear now. He's got to get focused on what he's got to do and get this car back towards the front. I mean, both Christophe Beauchou, who qualified this car, and Luis Diaz, who qualified the other car, absolutely superbly to take the pole in the class on the last minute. They've got this car working really, really well. But Scott Tucker, he's still obviously getting comfortable in it, and you know, he's trying to work his way through the traffic there. And
well, he's a little unlucky there. He wasn't really in the position to make that pass on the Porsche. And there from on board, you see he tries to get out of it at the last minute.
He's got to be a bit more decisive, quite frankly. I mean, he was alongside there, and he should have been able to brake deeper and get further into the corner, and he kind of chickened out on it. And you know, the GT driver did the right thing to take his line, effectively.
And he was very, very... Now, in defensive, Scott, there, he did look to the right before he pulled out. He is slightly over the brow in that chicane that the motorcycles used. So I am going to defend Scott there, but it's so difficult to know what to do as the leaders were bearing down. And there's Chris Dyson just gone past him through turn number 1. And look, you can see him glancing into the right-hand mirror. He looks again as they go down into the first part of the S's. We're hearing from the pit lane that the Oryx Dyson has been in and out of the pits with a slight misfire on the 4-cylinder turbocharged Mazda engine. So we are working lap number 13, and already drama and action as Marcel Fessler leads, but only by a second. But he's taken the opportunity to get by Sebastien Bourdais. Frank Montagny is third for Peugeot, and Tom Christensen still sitting in 4th position. There are the rest of your class leaders. And don't worry, we've still got at least 9 hours and 45 minutes to go.
Listen. Listen close. That's the sound of an aluminum block titanium valve V8 pushed to the limit. 24 hours straight. You hear that? That's what victory at 24 Hours of Le Mans sounds like. 100 years of racing heritage. Another reason Chevy runs deep.
Meet the Mazda 3 4-door, 5-door, and the one and only Mazda Speed 3. No other car in its class looks like it, feels like it, or most importantly, drives like it. This is a car worth driving. And that's the only kind of car we build. We build Mazdas. What do you drive?
A car designed with a singular purpose, yet somehow it manages to be so much more. Porsche, engineered for magic every day.
American Le Mans Series presented by Tequila Patrol. The fusion of man, mind, and machine in the ultimate test, where the fight for first is around every corner and in the mind of every driver. It's 100% adrenaline. Rip, rock, tear, and burn. But there's only one winner and only one place in North America to see the thrill of Le Mans. The American Le Mans Series, coming at you this summer on ABC, ESPN2, and ESPN3.
Here at Road Atlanta for the 14th annual Petit Le Mans, as we go full course caution, the Michelin Green X Challenge is also running. It's the final round, of course. We're trying to be clean, fast and efficient, as well as win motor races, making sure that our racing can also benefit the planet as we push forward with technology. This, as we come into the event this weekend, it's actually quite tight, with Muscle Milk ahead of Dyson Racing Team and the Oryx Dyson Racing in the prototype classes. And why are we so obsessed with this? Well, A, it's good for the planet, but B, you get an automatic invite to Le Mans 2012. In the GT categories, BMW Team RLL are leading it out, and we'll keep you updated with how that sits throughout the whole of the 1,000 miles, or what remains of it, and we'll be finding out who gets the invite at the end of the year. Now that, I am reliably informed, well, I can see it's Core Autosport, it's the 06 car then that has gone off and caused our first full course caution. We wondered how long it would take. Sadly, not very long, and that is at the final corner. We've seen cars go off before there. Stefan Johansson mounted the tyre barrier there. Now just look at the bottom of your picture. That is just a very nasty accident there, as it seems as though they got offline and managed to get it slowed down. You could see that there was plenty of tyre marks on the way down the hill. Massive championship implications.
I mean, those guys are looking for the championship here. They're, 3 points behind coming into this final race of the season, but whichever of them or the 063 car finished ahead would win the championship. And you know, for Gunnar Jeanette, we heard how confident he was before the start of the show, and to have that car off the road so early in the proceedings, an absolute disaster for Core Autosport.
Now the next question is, can they get it recovered, and is it able to get back to the pits? That is the big question.
Well, and the bad news is for them, they've gone off at turn 12 to get back to the pits. They're going to have to drive all the way around the racetrack, because I don't think they're going to be able to get back across. They'd have to go back counter course a little bit to get back in. I mean, they're only about 50 yards, but they're not allowed, they won't be able to do that, and that's a disaster for them.
Now, there is Eric Lux, and he will have seen that car, Jeremy, in the barriers at turn number 12, and they, as you said, massive championship implications. This is the car that started, remember, from pit lane, and they had their own trials and tribulations, but all of a sudden the pendulum that had swung away from them just 20 minutes ago is now back in their favour, and this is how the championship's been all year.
It has been. It's been a fantastic battle between these two really, really good teams, Genoa Racing and Core Autosport. Core Autosport, brand new organisation in the American Le Mans Series this year, with John Bennett putting together that team base in South Carolina. It's a thoroughly professional bunch of people there, a lot of tremendous experience among that team. Some good drivers as well, but look at Ricardo Gonzalez there, the frustration. All he wants to be doing is to be pulled out.
He wants to be pulled further back because he hasn't got enough steering lock to get the car around without touching the wall. But I've got to say, there seems to be very little damage on that car at the moment.
And remember, Gunnar Jeanette came into this race last year tied for the championship lead. It was a mechanical issue that let him down. That was the frustration. Now they're in a situation where they've got a man-caused error. But once again, he's so close. They're 3 points behind in this championship. They know they had a very simple job. They have to finish ahead of the number 63 car and Eric Lux. No matter what they do, they have to pull that off. If not, then they've lost that championship. So this is so frustrating.
And there goes Eric Lux. The car ahead is the car you're racing, Gunnar. Well, that's not going to make him popular with everybody. Well done, young man. It was a little late, but well done. And we have a Porsche on the main straight as well. Now, that looks like that's pointing the wrong direction. I was about to say, I wonder if there's someone else being involved. And I'm not a detective, but I grew up with one. And that may be a clue in parlance of law enforcement. The 68 TRG car.
Dr. Jim Norman.
I just wonder then, in that case, if there's been a bit of a coming together between Gunnar Jeanette and he was sort of pushed off rather than drove at. Have a look at the replay again. Do we see anything coming down the hill? Look at the left-hand side. Oh, he's done it under yellow. Wow. So he nearly hit the other core racing car. Okay, so not guilty on that particular piece of evidence, but that's been a dramatic few minutes, and that's just a lack of concentration coming onto the back of the yellow flag.
Yeah, I'm afraid it is. Jim Norman there, doesn't have a lot of experience in his cars, and he does drive the GT3 cars on a regular basis in the GT3 Cup Challenge Series, but just caught out a little bit there, and just a little bit of unfamiliarity, I think, with these caution flag procedures.
Well, our first full course caution. But even when there's nothing on the track, there's been plenty of big news this week here at the Petit Le Mans. And one of them has been Michelin's announcement to partner with the upcoming Delta Wing project. This is an innovative new approach to road racing that will just debut at next year's 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Change and innovation are big parts of the American Le Mans Series, and Michelin thrives on both. Think about it. Michelin worked with the ALMS to create consistent, long-wearing, and less expensive tires for the LMP Challenge class. At Le Mans, new pit rules mean tire changes take much longer, so Michelin developed tires that maintain performance for a longer period of time. And when Porsche created a flywheel hybrid with electric wheel motors, Michelin developed the tires to handle the weight and torque. Michelin recently announced it would become a technical partner of the new Delta Wing. So, Scott Clark, why does Michelin want to partner up with the Delta Wing?
I'll tell you, it's an exciting new challenge for us. Typically, racing is about more horsepower, more grip, and this vehicle is really all about less. Very lightweight, efficient tires. So it's a new challenge for us, and it's the kind of thing that we do every day in building tires for consumers. So we can learn from this and apply that to our tires that we make every day. So it's very exciting for us, and we're happy to be part of the project.
The 56 number signifies the 56th garage at Le Mans, the garage that is reserved for technological innovation. And that we'll see that there next year. As we're cycling through our onboards, 10 of them today here at Petit Le Mans, and the 56 Crown Plaza BMW. Joey Handy's had such a great season. Now there is the 68 TRG GT Challenge car, which we saw facing the wrong direction a few moments ago. And he has been recovered by our hard-working IMSA safety crews. And there's a little bit of damage on the left rear there, that suspension damage. I think he may have broken the bottom toe link on the Porsche. That's, again, I'm not a specialist on Porsche suspension, but I think he's got a little bit too much, a little bit too much camber on that one, Jeremy. Now, pits have been open for prototypes, 25 minutes or thereabouts in. Do you take the pit stop? I suppose you're halfway through a stint, so you've got to, really, haven't you?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually, because I think track position here is very, very important. So it's a bit of a tough call, but I would think certainly we'll see the people farther back down the order coming in. The leaders, yeah, probably I would think so as well.
Bit of a gamble because
First part of the race, yeah.
It is a bit of a gamble because the GT cars might not come in, but the top 4 certainly have. Into the pit lane, top 5, top 6 all diving in. That is the Nicolas Lapierre driven Peugeot. Just look how tight this is, and this is a very tight pit lane with 53 cars, record starting numbers. But remember, the prototypes come in the first lap by, and the GT cars the other, and they're going to have to get these staged absolutely correctly.
Now, initially, they had only set up for the number 8 car to come in. Then, after a few moments, they decided to go ahead and set them up for both, deciding to let both of them come in, make their full pit stops. You see, they're putting in fuel. At one point, Sebastian Bourdais was questioning whether they would put tires on. He said it's pointy and braking. Wasn't sure he needed tires, but they're going to go ahead and do it anyway. Jamie?
Well, both the number 1 and the number 2 Audis are on pit road. However, they did not hit their marks. The number 2 Audi is too far forward. The crew's going to have to push him back. Number 1 already out of pit lane. It was fuel and tires only. Fuel and tires only on the number 2 as well, but they are going to lose some time right here.
Losing absolutely huge amounts of time as they drop back behind the number 10 Peugeot, the older car of Orica. And that is, I mean, we talk about this motor racing game being a game of inches, Jeremy, and literally there, a couple of inches the wrong side of his marks, ahead of his teammate, and it's all just a nightmare. Oh, and he almost goes off there with cold front tyres on that number 2, Tom Christensen. Maybe the great man has been rattled a little bit by that.
Yeah, and we were talking about, do you come in, do you not come in? And clearly, it was a bit of a toss-up for the teams there. It was quite a long time before they actually opened up the pits. We saw Guillaume Moreau, I think it was, in one of the Oak cars, was in a few laps ago, just before the caution period. So I think he might cycle his way through to the front here when we go back to green. I don't think Adrian Fernandez pitted either in the 007 Aston Martin. So.
Well, I'm looking back through the line. If it was a bad pit stop for the 2 car, it was an awful car. An awful pit stop for the second Peugeot, which is now way back down the field because he's even behind Tom Christensen, and we know he didn't have a claim on. Now, before the caution came out, look at the top of the screen there, side by side. That's the battle for the lead going through the GT field, and that was Sebastian Bourdais taking the lead over Marcel Fessler. Fessler goes to driver's left, coming out of 5. Look to the right over the wheel arch there, and there is the pass for the lead.
Missed that one.
That was moments before we went full course caution.
Yeah, you can see there's no flags out there as they come onto the back straight away. But yeah, what a good opportunist move that was by Sebastian Bourdais. Here's the GT cars on pit lane, but again, not many of the GT cars themselves, several GTC cars, but here's one of the BMWs, that is the Dirk Werner car, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you'll find the 2 car teams will split their strategies. One of the Corvettes coming in as well, the AF Corsa, Jimmy Bruni, Giancarlo Fisichella, coming in out of 4th place in the GT. Both the Jaguars have come in. There's Fisichella in the tricolore adorned AF Corsa car, the 458. Remember, they took pole position at Sebring in the old car.
Number 56 is coming into the lane. It's going to be fuel and tires. Fuel is already complete. A new set of Dunlops going on now. You can see the orchestration. They start caddy corner. Right now, last 2 is going on, and they are going to drop off the jacks. They're losing some time here, though. This back rear is taking a lot longer than it needs to. They're losing valuable time because they've already been beaten out of pit lane by other GT cars. It looks like the trouble continues, Kelly.
One of those teams they were beaten by was that 51 AF Corsa Ferrari 458. They had a very quick stop. It was fuel only on the 51 car. They've been out for a while now.
Well, that is again not the best of stops, and Joey Hand is not a happy man. Quick recap at the front of the field. The number 1 Audi, fuel only. The number 2 took tyres, and I think the Peugeots have split their stops as well, with the leading Peugeot taking fuel and the second one only taking fuel and tyres. We'll reset the field for you when we come back to Brazelton and Road Atlanta.
Changing your motor oil really changed the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G Oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
There once was a hungry road that wouldn't let drivers get very far. It wore out their tires, forcing them to buy new ones time and time again. Then along came the Michelin Man who proved the right tire changes everything. With long-lasting tires in place, those drivers were back on the road to saving money. Michelin Hydro Edge tires last up to 33,000 miles longer than a leading competitor. Michelin, a better way forward.
When you think about it, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Hundreds of hours to shave fractions of a second. Hundreds of hours in precision engineering. Analyzing. Perfecting. Pushing the limits of speed and safety. Patron Racing reminds you, when getting behind the wheel, know your limits. We do.
Registering a website address has never been easier or cheaper because now there's Name Silo. Everybody needs a website address. Register your business name and get instant credibility. Got a hot new idea for a product or service? Register it immediately and protect your name and your children's names before somebody else owns them online. With the lowest everyday prices on the web, getting your website address is just a few simple clicks away. Name Silo. Cheap, easy, and secure. Register or transfer a website address and get your name on an ALMS race car.
It's Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta here in Braselton, Georgia, and this is a record field with a record amount of spectators on the fence lines, around the circuit, in the woods, on the grandstands and in the amphitheatre. It turns 10A and B. Literally every single spot is taken here at Road Atlanta this weekend. This has become a must-see sports car event. Now, lots of action in the pit lane for the prototype, so let's round up that action right now with our pit lane team.
Actually, I have two teams to talk about. First, we'll talk about those Peugeots. The fact that you were talking when Frank Montagny was out late. They had a problem on pit lane. It was a much slower stop. Left rear had a problem getting that on. Once they were able to get it out, they got by. Interesting, Sebastian Bourdais was behind. They had to push him back, so his was longer than they expected. Now let's talk about Flying Lizard, the number 45 car. They have elected to keep him out on the track. Simple fact, they like the track position he's in right now. They said if it was a shorter race, they would be concerned. But at the end of 9 or 10 hours, they say this probably won't matter very much. Jamie?
Well, down at BMW, the team continued to examine that left rear tire that came off of the car. I checked in with the team, and they say, we're not sure what's going on. He still has a funny feeling in that wheel, so we're going to have to keep an eye on it.
And meanwhile, that LMPC championship we've been talking about between the 06 Core Autosports car and the 63 car from Genoa, they both came in to do their stops. The 63 Genoa car was very quick, no problems there. The 06 had trouble getting into its pit stop. Now, that's the one that was involved in the incident. I looked, I didn't see from my vantage point the damage. They didn't do anything out of the ordinary on their pit stop, but it was longer than usual. They were a bit slow making the tire change, so they were in pit lane for significantly longer than the 63.
So that's brought you up to date with at least some of what went on in those yellow flag pit stops. The safety car is still out, and here's how it stands. Look at the top of the screen. Adrian Fernandez leads it, running through with the GT running order now. Here's the overall. It's Adrian Fernandez leading it behind the Mazda 6 safety car, with Frank Mayer best of the P2s for Signatech Nissan in second place. And there is the leader effectively in the race. In third place, second overall, the Jacques Nicolet driven 35 car, and then all the cars that have stopped, led by Marcel Fessler in the number 1 Audi. Now, it's not all been plain sailing. Watch this down in the pit lane, Jeremy.
Yeah, the Black Swan Racing team comes in for a pit stop. Let's watch what happens.
We've all
Not
done
very much
that.
happens.
We've all done
he missed his marks.
Oh, how embarrassing is that when you can't quite get the hose from the pump in? It's a quick fill at the front of a Porsche, but that was, what, 4, 5 or 6 seconds there. Yeah. And those tiny little things, again, that'll just put the pressure on the guy behind the wheel.
And unlike, well, we should Jerome Blakemole in there, and unlike him, to make a mistake like that and not hit his marks.
Yeah, absolutely right.
But we saw Ryan Lewis is at the front of the field in the first place of the LMP cars, and he's going to be watching his mirrors here at the restart. He is leading the class. That is why he is at the front of the field. Yeah. And if they'd waved him past, then he would have gained a lap on all the other cars in that class. And that's what the officials here are trying to avoid is people being able to take advantage of the time of the caution period. So interesting call there. I'm sure he'll be somewhat with some trepidation going back to the green flag, but that is a reason that the 52 car is at the front of the field overall. It's the leading LMP challenge.
And we're going back to green flag racing. Thank you very much for telling us that, gentlemen. As we're on 35 minutes exactly, through goes Adrian Fernandez, leader of the race, to put the LMPC leader a lap back. And that, in fact, is the second place car at LMPC right there with Kyle Marcelli, the brighter coloured car in that traffic. And there is the leading P2 car as well with Frank Mayer. Lots of leaders at the front of the... leaders at the front. There's the GT battle as well there, Jeremy, and this is what this tends to do. All the leaders in class absolutely together, and the top 3 GTs with Flying Lizards taking that opportunity, as you said, to hold on to track position, now in second in the GT battle behind that 55 BMW of Dirk Werner.
Yes, we've got a BMW, a Porsche and a Ferrari that absolutely nose to tail to come onto the back straight away here to begin what will be their 21st lap. But what a great job Kyle Marcelli has done once again for Intersport Racing. Started at the back of the field, already up to second place in LMP Challenge.
Now look behind those 3 GT cars. Is a very clever move there by Fred Makovic. Tries to get a little bit of a tour as Frank Mayer and the Signatec Nissan went by him. That is 4th and 5th. So in the top 5 we have 4 different manufacturers and 5 different teams, with Corvette battling Ferrari, Porsche and BMW. This is why we say don't do anything with GT. It's absolutely perfect, and in about half a lap's time we're going to have 5 cars, 20 wheels of solid GT action.
Yeah, isn't it cool to see 2 of the Oak Racing cars among the top 5 overall in the race? Admittedly, the 2 of them haven't made a pit stop, and all the other turbo diesels have, but still cool to see. But Adrian Fernandez, he'll be enjoying himself at the front of this field. Of course, a great win for the 007 car a couple of weeks ago at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca.
Catching the number 60 Gulf Aston Martin. That car's been in and out of the pits a couple of times. Now the number 2 Audi seems to, it's Christensen, and he's got a flat tyre. Look at that, and that's a bad one on the left front. Let's have a look to see what happens. Right in the top of the screen, coming through the traffic there. Oh yes, well, we've seen an Audi number 2 off there before and hitting the wall quite hard. Alan McNish, now was there, let's have a look as he comes through. It's one of the Lotus that he's right alongside. Oh my goodness me, it's Johnny Morlam in the 65. And that was a big hit as Christensen put the car on the curb.
Okay, crew, nose change.
You hear on the radio the number 2 cars on pit lane. They are going to take this opportunity to go ahead and replace the bodywork as well. They're going to replace the nose. When they developed this R18, one of the things that they made sure to do was to make sure that they could easily get this bodywork off. You saw a little bit of a struggle there, though. That's because there is a lot of damage right at the area of one of the pins. So the nose going over the wall right now. Corvette Racing helping them out. It's a very tight pit lane. So right now Corvette's holding that Audi nose. New nose already on. Team clipping it into place. They are losing some time here, but it's better to happen early in the race than later. So the crew going hard at work right now to get Tom Christensen back out.
That nose has not gone on properly. The worry that you have when you have a big ding like that is one of the catches doesn't quite line up. And that was not very Audi, to be honest, as Christensen rejoins. Already had a bit of a whoopsie when he went out on cold tyres out of his first scheduled pit stop. Don't cross the blend line on the left. It's dotted there. Okay, Tom, on you go. Now, this is where the accident happened. And he's got through there this time. Yeah. It's very circumspect through there again. The temperatures would have dropped out now.
Having gone off on his outlap on the, after the previous pit stop.
And this is very, very significant, particularly for the ILMC Championship. They ran the red light at the end of pit lane, and that means they've been given a stop. 23, 51 and 61 we're hearing will be stop plus 60 seconds, and that is why the official is pulling the 51 AF Corsa car forward, because there's going to be 2 other cars sitting in behind him.
Yeah, 2 AF Corsa cars, too, the 61 and the 51. Boy, that's a big mistake by the European team there. That is very strange that 2 teammates should make the same mistake of running that red light. The red light should be pretty apparent to the drivers.
It's not a thing they see very often in Europe with under the safety car rules. You normally come out the pits, and if you've got the pits are open, you just go. And I wonder if that's just slightly confused them.
Boy, I tell you what, we've had some big problems here for some
big teams.
Pace setters, in all the different classes. That is absolutely amazing. Both in LMP Challenge, we see in the 06 car off the road, the Ferrari there making a stop-and-go penalty.
That car was
the Audis,
second, remember?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been running fantastically well. On the pole, too, it started.
Yeah, well, are we going to see a drive of epic proportions in terms of a drive back through the field by Jimmy Bruni and Giancarlo Fisichella? Here comes the AM version of that car, the 51, to do exactly the same thing.
61, that was leading the AM class certainly earlier on, anyhow.
So 2 of the AF Corsa cars pulled over, and that is going to seem like an eternity. I'll just check my watch. Says
Rui Aguas.
Yeah, he's a tidy driver, Rui. Of course, been around Rob Kaufman and Michael Waltrip Racing for some time. Justin Bell drafted into that car for his first competitive drive in 3 years. And he's been doing decent. He's improved all the way through the week. Now, let's go and have a look at the GTC battle. That car isn't going anywhere for a little while. It's starting to tighten up at the front of the field. And remember, this is a championship that is very much still up for grabs. There is Tim Papas's Black Swan Racing number 54 with Jerome Blakemolen at the wheel, driving effectively for his team boss here for the championship. And behind it, the number 66 is the TRG car, which, well, Jeremy, I never get tired of saying this because it's absolutely true. These challenge classes have been great entertainment all year. And, you know, in this Porsche GTC class, I mean, how many times have we seen passes on the last lap for the lead of the class?
I think there were 3 races in a row we saw a pass on the lead on the final lap, which is absolutely amazing. But yeah, it has been tremendous racing amongst these 5 or 6 teams, really, but particularly Black Swan Racing and TRG. They've certainly been, you know, the major protagonists at the front of the field, but there's plenty of other contenders in there as well on their day.
I was talking with Duncan Indy in that number 66 TRG Porsche earlier this weekend, and he said we have to be flat out from the drop of the green flag. Even though it is a long race, we have nothing to lose here. Black Swan Racing, they have everything to lose. They're leading both of the championships, but for the guys in the 66, he said we are taking no prisoners and we're just going to go for it.
The guys we talked to the guys at Black Swan earlier in the week, and they basically said, you know, we just want to keep on doing what we've been doing all year. Taking the foot off the gas is not necessarily the best thing to do. You want to keep on pushing and try to win from the front. If you try and set yourself a pace and drive to it, and maybe then the concentration's not there, that's when mistakes can possibly be made. And I actually think that's a pretty good idea. The Black Swan guys, Jeremy, have led from the front all year, and they've got a fantastic record. And to try and do anything now and be a bit clever, set yourself a pace to get to 70% of the 394 laps, the 1,000 miles here, that could be a complete recipe for disaster for them.
Yeah, you know, they know how to win a championship. They did exactly that 1 year ago. So, you know, they're not going to do anything different. They're just going to run their race. They're going to run as fast as they can, as they always do. And with 3 very good drivers in there, whoa, that car is moving around a lot there. It gives the Orica car behind him quite a display there, because Jerome Blakemolen got that car really tweaked up going down through the S's there, and something didn't look quite right there.
Now there's Kyle Marcelli, and what a driving season this young man has had. He's leading the category now,
he is.
And in second place was the previous leader when we started back off the restart, remember, just what, 5 or 6 laps ago, a few more than that now. Ryan Lewis in the 52 was leading, that's now turned around.
What a fantastic job that whole team has done. Yeah, last lap around, I think Kyle took the lead from the 52 of Ryan Lewis there, but this team, they've done a fantastic job. They were up till well past 2 o'clock this morning, changing that car over from what happened yesterday.
And this is what happened. Well, that obviously clearly wasn't the problem, but keep watching as Brian Sellers gets a very near miss, and David Murray is about to appear from the right-hand side of the screen in the Ford GT and somehow gets the car partially sideways with David Ducote absolutely in the middle of the track, nowhere to go. David, well, for a moment it looked pretty serious, but he was taken to hospital as a precaution. He was alert and awake, and his brother Chapman Ducote will give us a bit of a thumbs up later on in that day. It's been quite an eventful week for the Ducote family, as you'll see later on when we see the prototype lights coverage with their father Wayne, who was out in that particular championship. But Kyle Marcelli, I mean, he's been swapping and changing teams throughout the season, the itinerant driver, if you like, and he's just had a phenomenal year, making sure that whatever he's done, whoever he's been with, he's gelled with the teams and managed to get the results that he's needed. So we're, somewhere near 45 minutes now into a maximum of 10 hours. The magic number is 394 as far as the laps are concerned. It's the 14th annual Petit Le Mans from Road Atlanta.
Listen. Listen close. That's the sound of an aluminum block titanium valve V8 pushed to the limit. 24 hours straight. You hear that? That's what victory at 24 Hours of Le Mans sounds like. 100 years of racing heritage. Another reason Chevy runs deep.
Meet the Mazda 3 4-door, 5-door, and the one and only Mazda Speed 3. No other car in its class looks like it, feels like it, or most importantly, drives like it. This is a car worth driving. And that's the only kind of car we build. We build Mazdas. What do you drive?
So.
Designed with a singular purpose, yet somehow it manages to be so much more. Porsche, engineered for magic every day.
American Le Mans Series presented by Tequila Patrol. The fusion of man, mind, and machine in the ultimate test, where the fight for first is around every corner and in the mind of every driver. It's 100% adrenaline. Rip, rock, tear, and burn. But there's only one winner. And only one place in North America to see the thrill of Le Mans. The American Le Mans Series. Coming at you this summer on ABC, ESPN2, and ESPN3.
Full course caution number 2, and clearly there is the reason why. This is the 98 Jaguar that has come to a standstill with smoke billowing from the front of the car. The driver, I am pleased to say, already out, Jeremy, and doing something about it himself with a fire extinguisher he's pulled from over the wall.
Yeah, Rocky Moran Jr. there, and let's have a look to see. You see the car to the left of the screen there, and clearly he's obviously slowed right down there.
Look at the oil smoke inside the car, Jeremy. It's already in the cockpit at that point, found its way through. That looks to me as though there's some kind of union or something like that, started spraying oil around, but you can see quite clearly the white smoke inside the car.
Yeah.
That tends to be oil smoke. Somebody's getting a cracking picture there. Nice and close up. Rocky.
What a shame for those guys. Yeah. I mean, they've worked so hard, the Jaguar team, the Jaguar RSR guys, and they've had problems all the way through the week, the last few races. But I talked to John Gentilozzi last night, the technical director there, and they thought they got a handle on the various sort of overheating problems they have been having the last few races, but apparently not.
Well, Rocky's been on the radio and speaking to Paul and said he thought it was a carbon fire inside the car, not necessarily engine related, but that was maybe just his first thought. The GM safety truck already there with the IMSA safety team, and the guys have been working hard this weekend. Hello to all of those guys who I know will be listening here at the track. And they are poking right back to the firewall area. No pun intended. Now, who does this benefit at the front of the field? Well, Adrian Fernandez didn't stop last time around, and he's right in the window now for a standard stop. But of course, he'd then have to give up the lead, Jeremy.
Yeah, but he has to come in now for sure. But what a great strategy, I think, by the Aston Martin Racing team. There was no need for Adrian to come in first stop. Let's get him out in clean air. And he ran away there. He had a goodly lead and was really doing a fine job at the front. We haven't seen much of him. That's because he's been on his own when there's all these other battles been going on. But great strategy, I think, by those guys. We'll certainly see them in the pit lane right now. And I fancy we'll see most of the other leaders in the LMP1 class in as well.
And remember, that car was part of a private collection up until just a few weeks ago. It had not been running competition for some time. They brought it back, ran it at Silverstone, ran it at Laguna, were able to win. But they said they really needed the time here last weekend during the test session that ran. They hadn't had a chance to do any development work. So they said the time last weekend and all this week on the track had been critical to improving that car and getting back to where they really need to be instead of being a collection car, being a race car.
Good to see it. I'm all for getting the cars out of the museums and back onto the circuit. They've suffered just a wee bit from that plank change, the ride height change, and that's why they needed to do all that work, as Rick has been telling us. And why do people go racing? Well, that's because the development of road car technology on the racetrack has become a proven practice for many manufacturers. And as I found out earlier this week, Chevy is no exception and have taken this sort of development to the extreme with the new Corvette ZR1. Technological advancements from the race program filter down into street cars like the Corvette ZR1, where allowable or on a test track, that car can do 205 miles an hour, making it the fastest production built Chevrolet ever. And Doug Feehan, it might just also be the most technologically advanced Chevrolet ever.
Advanced performance is what Corvette is all about. And for 2012, we've upped our game. The ZR1 with the new PDE performance package features Michelin Pilot Sport Cup zero pressure tires and lightweight cup wheels.
And what about traction control?
When combined with standard high-tech chassis features, such as our performance traction management and magnetic ride adjustable shock technology, the tires help set a new benchmark for Corvette performance.
And the proof? Well, how about over 6 seconds slashed from the lap time round the legendary Nürburgring Nordschleife? The new ZR1 stopping the clocks at under 7 minutes and 20 seconds. If you'd like to see that lap in full, go to YouTube/Chevrolet, where you can also learn all about technology transfer from the track to the street. Take me back there right now to the Nordschleife. Now that is the racing car that provides all of that technology we talked about. Jan Magnussen behind the wheel of the 4th place GT Chevy Corvette. Number 4 car. And at the moment, as you can see, he's not up to racing speed. One thing I just want to point out on that, Jeremy, if you look at the numbers on the side and the Chevy bow tie logo on the back window of that car, not the usual colours this week. IMSA and the ACO have given special dispensation for them to run pink numbers as part of the cancer awareness programme. Nice job by the guys down there at Pratt & Miller and CompuWare Corvette.
Yeah, and certainly interesting to see the relative pace of the cars in GT in the early stages of the race. We saw in qualifying yesterday the Corvettes were about almost a second off the ultimate pace in qualifying, but even with that they were a second faster. They went last year, but the Chevy Corvette guys, they're concentrating on the race. They're not really worried about qualifying. I spoke to Dan Binks this morning, and they're confident they got a good car for the race, and judging by the pace that Jan Magnussen has been setting in the early stages, he's running there in 4th place in the class. He has not yet made a pit stop, so he will be in, I'm sure, during his caution period, but he is showing good pace in the early stages.
Eagle-eyed from the production team at the TV truck, Jim Roller pointing out that the scrutineering sticker from Le Mans is still on the back panel of that number 4 car, which was of course the 73 car at Le Mans. Proof, if proof were needed, of the provenance of that particular car. Just look in the left hand side of your picture there, you can 74 has still got the sticker on as well. That's the 74 car. That would be the 4 car, and the 73 is the 3 car. And you can just see the 24 Dumont in the bright yellow there, just keeping the Providence going. It's good stuff from the guys at Chevy Corvette. And there is the stricken 98. Now this is unscheduled. This is United Autosport coming in from emergency service with the pits not quite open. This is a brand new car to the series, just a one-off for United Autosports, one of the Oak Racing Pescarolo P2 cars. Zach Brown, Stefan Johansson and Mark Patterson. And obviously Stefan in the car.
Yeah, distinctive helmet there.
Yeah, very much.
Little leaves on the side of it he's had since he was a youngster.
Now that is not scheduled and came in a bit of a puff of smoke. He's talking to the guys on the radio at the moment. Look back at, he's just stopped. He's just stopped right in the middle of the track. And he was running to quite heavily by the 18. And that was basically like a freeway accident or a motorway accident. Going to the paddock, going behind the wall. Now, cause or effect? That was people breaking into turn number. I think he had a problem as well as that traffic jam.
Hard to say, but he certainly didn't look like it. He had, you're not allowed to pass under yellow, so he was just slowing down and trying to keep out of the way there. But we saw some cars fanning out to the left and right to avoid other cars that had slowed perhaps more than some of the other guys had anticipated. But I don't think there was a problem before that contact.
Now, because we are so close to the last full course caution, when we do get the pits open, and we're told it will be at the end of this lap, it will be for everybody. So this now is going to be a calculated gamble for any of the prototypes at the head of the field who want to come in, because the pits are going to be way more busy than they would be under a normal full course caution. And we're hearing that the number 1 Audi will be making a pit stop, and Marcel Fessler will be getting out of that car. Now, I don't believe that car took tyres. I don't believe that car got tyres in its first stop. They just fueled it with diesel, and a full service being planned for the number 1 Audi of Marcel Fessler, second on the road at the moment.
This is going to be a busy pit lane. With all these cars, this is going to be a very, very very busy pit lane. That's a strange call for me, but here we are, pit stops being made now, and a whole bunch of cars are going to be coming down here.
And both of the factory Peugeots have come in. Less than half an hour ago, that last caution is why that we get everybody coming in at the same time. And Tom Christensen may well just have a slight advantage from being off kilter here. It's going to be a busy pit lane. Let's check in and find out what's happening.
As far as the Peugeots, it's only fuel. They were very concerned about pit lane speed, kept warning both the drivers, make sure you do it right. They're fortunate the car ahead of them isn't here, so they're able to get out cleanly. Jamie?
The number 1 Audi also on pit road. Marcel Fessler already out. It's Timo Bernhard getting behind the wheel of the car. Tires are going on now. They did not take tires on that first pit stop, so this is the first tire change for the number 1 Audi. Driver change taking longer than expected, longer than it normally does. It is a closed cockpit car. The door is shut, and Timo Bernhard is out. Kelly?
Well, as those prototypes have already made their pit stops or at a pit lane, we see the 55 BMW getting its fuel, and now they're beginning their tire change with the Dunlap tires. However, they've started taking 4 new tires here at 55 BMW. A slight delay at the end. Off and ahead of the 45.
Wow. We said there was going to be plenty of action off the track as well as on, and there certainly was as the leaders get back out. But a slight fumble for Audi. The driver change was not done when the service was done, and that, quite frankly, is lost time. It's not been a clean run. Now racing with us this weekend has been the ALMS GT3 Cup by Yokohama, and it was a great couple of races. Fabulous looking field of Porsches here at Road Atlanta, with Carlos Kaufman on pole position, and he would have a battle with Enrique Cisneros all day. Gomez, Policastro and Mark Bullitt having a little battle of their own. And look at this, as Bullitt just loses it coming up the hill to 5, spins out and loses positions. In the Platinum class, Carlos Kaufman and Enrique Cisneros, the NGT teammates. Cisneros spinning out, but he'd already won the championship last time out. And there's Madison Snow going to the head of the Gold class late in the race. So at the checkered flag, Carlos Kaufman won the Platinum class, Madison Snow wins the Gold class, and Enrique Cisneros takes the championship and celebrates in style. More from Road Atlanta and the 14th annual Petit Le Mans when we come back.
Changing your motor oil really changed the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G Oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
There once was a hungry road that wouldn't let drivers get very far. It wore out their tires, forcing them to buy new ones time and time again. Then along came the Michelin man who proved the right tire changes everything. With long-lasting tires in place, those drivers were back on the road to saving money. Michelin Hydro Edge tires last up to 33,000 miles longer than a leading competitor. Michelin, a better way forward.
When you think about it, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Hundreds of hours to shave fractions of a second. Hundreds of hours in precision engineering. Analyzing. Perfecting. Pushing the limits of speed and safety. Patron Racing reminds you, when getting behind the wheel, know your limits. We do.
Registering a website address has never been easier or cheaper because now there's Name Silo. Everybody needs a website address. Register your business name and get instant credibility. Got a hot new idea for a product or service? Register it immediately and protect your name and your children's names before somebody else owns them online. With the lowest everyday prices on the web, getting your website address is just a few simple clicks away. Name Silo. Cheap, easy, and secure. Register or transfer a website address and get your name on an ALMS race car.
The American Le Mans Series. Born in France in 1923 with the first running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the American Le Mans Series is the glory and the grueling reality of world-class sports car racing. 5 separate classes racing on the track at the same time. This is the American Le Mans Series. Just over the hour mark here, we're still under our second full course caution. Already one of the start drivers out of the cars, Marcel Fessler, down in the pit lane.
That's right. During that last pit stop, Marcel Fessler handed the car over to Timo Bernhard. Marcel, it's early in the race, but it looks like the action is already heating up out on track. How was it?
Yeah, the start was pretty good, I would say. At the beginning I could not follow Sebastian, but then I could catch up a little bit in the traffic. And then I just have seen that I can go fast, and we had a nice battle into the last chicane. I could overtake him onto going to turn 12, and it was a good, fair racing. And it's pretty busy outside with the traffic, so at the moment still 9 hours to go, so a lot can happen, and we will see a lot of many safety cars. So it's at the moment everything fine for us.
Traffic continues because we're back to green flag. Thank you, Marcel.
Yeah, and the top of the timing and scoring looks quite unfamiliar. Well, unless you're at Sebring, because Nicolas Lapierre is leading for Orica with Alex Premat in second place for Oak Racing and Andrea Bellicchi third for Rebellion Lola Toyota.
And look who's in fourth place. It's Greg Pickett in the Muscle Milk Lola Aston Martin. 64 years of age is Greg Pickett. Spoke to him just before the start. He's loving the car this week. Look at Nicolas Lapierre there, weaving the car around the road, just trying to get rid of the rubber pickup that they get from running under caution.
And there is Greg Pickett in what I think, Jeremy, he told you might be his last outing.
Yeah, his swan song in the LMP cars, and just no emotion about it, just matter of fact. He was telling me about it, but it's clearly a great day for Greg. You know, he's done a super job this weekend. He's been fast. He set the 6th fastest time in the warm-up in this car, and he's running some very, very good laps in the race as well.
And Greg Pickett's goal for this weekend really was just to have fun. He said, the last time I climbed out of this Aston Martin, it was in anger and rage when the car stopped working at Sebring. So he's told himself just to enjoy being back in the car and have fun. I asked him about getting back up to speed. He said, yeah, it definitely takes a few laps. You forget just how quick these things are, and especially with all the traffic. But as you said, he's thoroughly enjoyed it, and he's done a terrific job so far.
And although he might not be out next year, the team certainly will be. But what will they be racing next year? That is a question that we don't know at the moment, the answer to at the moment, as Greg just loses a position to Tom Christensen. But that, in fact, was not a past 4 position. That is Tom Christensen getting himself back on the lead lap. Now, Jeremy, you've been writing furiously there. We have some more drama at the head of the field. Tom Christensen, by the way, that pass was not for position. Christensen a lap back and is now fighting his way back towards the head of the field and trying to get back onto the lead lap. But Jeremy has been writing furiously, which can only mean one thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, generally not good news. We've got some penalties coming up, I gather. Several penalties, and amazingly, 2 of them are going to be on both of the works Peugeots. They've been called for, again, blowing that red light at pit lane exit. To me, there's something a bit fishy going on here, because drivers' experience, Giancarlo Fisichella, the factory Peugeot guys, they wouldn't be running red lights, normally. There's something strange is happening. Either the sun's in a weird place, or the light or something down there is off kilter for me.
Well, remember, when they were coming down pit lane, before they got here, they kept trying to impress upon the drivers. Don't forget the pit lane speed. Don't forget, that's all they talked about. Don't forget the pit lane speed. What they neglected to say was that there could be other problems at the other end. Remember, this is the United States. Things are a little bit different, a little more confusing. As a result, now what's happened is, in that confusion, they've got a penalty they're going to have to face.
And we're also hearing the 33 level 5 car was speeding on pit lane. That's an obvious one. And number 4, the GM Chevy Corvette, that ran over some pit lane equipment, and that will be a stop and go as well. Now in comes the number 8 car from 6th position overall, Frank Montani. I would say that at Silverstone in the last round of the ILMC, the pit lane rules were changed from the rest of the season. Normally the default position for the red light, for the light at the end of pit lane, is red. Oh, now he's come into his pit box. No. Are they assessing it there? They clearly are. Rick de Bruyne is down there.
Yeah, indeed. They've got an official at the front looking at his watch. They've brought him in, put him into place. The official keeps looking at his watch, looking up at another official to make sure all the time is correct. How frustrating is this? Your car is going so well. You're out there doing a great job, and now you're going to have to come out after a 60-second penalty of sitting here. Imagine how frustrating. Meanwhile, the 2 car, the Audis, have to be loving this at this moment in time.
Absolutely. I wonder if there's actually already too many people in the penalty box and there's nowhere for him to go and park. Let me just finish the thought about the red light rules in the ILMC, which of all of the people who've been pinged as he goes across to, this is the number 2 Audi going across to get the lead lap and in fact go ahead of that stationary Peugeot that is still sitting there. There he goes, number 8, leading back out. Montani's dropping down through the field. The default position of the light at the end of the pit lane in the ILMC is red. You sit and wait there until one of 2 pace cars go by, safety cars go by, and let them then go as in comes his teammate, and then go and join the end of the queue. And then you're basically back on it, and the light goes back to red again. At Silverstone it changed, and it was green all the time. And I just wonder if these guys have got themselves confused about what's going on with the pit lane exit regulations here at Petit Le Mans. And this is going to be another long hold, 60 seconds. As Martin Spetz, the photographer, in the front of the picture there, gets a couple of snaps of what are a very, very concerned looking Peugeot Sport team. Nicolas Lapierre, though, leads for the backup car. Remember, we didn't expect to see the old lady back again in the hands of Hugh de Schonack and Orica. We thought that car had been retired. This, we are told, is definitely the last outing for that HDI FAP version of the 908.
And when that car was last raced here in North America, that was at Sebring, and what did it do there? It won the race. Yep. And it might well win the race again if the other factory turbo diesel cars keep tripping over themselves. Both of the Peugeots now, they're going to fall more than a lap behind the race leaders.
Yeah, now don't forget, Nicolas Lapierre is still leading the race And Tom Christensen is trying desperately to get back on the lead lap in the number 2 Audi. The number 1 of Timo Bernhard is on the lead lap, but down in 6th position. As it stands at the moment, with that number 7 Peugeot rejoining well down the field now. That's Sebastien Bourdais. He might even drop out of the top 10 as it stands at the moment. It's Nicolas Lapierre by 6 seconds from Andrea Bellicchi in the Rebellion in 2nd place, the number 12. Then Premat in the first of the Oak Racing cars, the 24, in 3rd place, and he's another 7 seconds further back. Greg Pickett, the best of the American Le Mans Series racers, in 4th position in the number 6 Muscle Milk Lola Aston Martin, and then Luis Diaz in 5th and leading the P2 category in the ARX-01G, the cost cap level 5 car.
Brand new car.
That is the brand new one.
That is the brand new one. Yeah, the other car was a brand new car 2 weeks ago, but this one is a brand new car now. Another car also started at the back of the field. Luis Diaz, he's a star, that guy. I saw him just before the start of the race, a huge smile across his face. I congratulate him on his pole yesterday. He said, yeah, I really needed that, and the team needed that, because it vaulted that final lap of qualifying yesterday. Luis Diaz vaulted himself from 3rd in the class in LMP2 to the class pole. He was thrilled with that, and what a great drive he put together so far as well.
Now, if you want to go and look for a little bit of a battle, never forget the GT field, and at the moment it's Luxury Racing that leads. The 58 Ferrari 458 is right ahead of us, and that is a pass for position as Tom Milner and Joey Hand are battling through in the BMWs, and that is Ralph Furman leading, with the BMW in 2nd, and 3rd is the GM Corvette.
Yeah, Ralph Furman, this is his first start in the American Le Mans Series. He's raced all the way around the world. He's from England, but sort of with an Irish, half Irish parentage, so he's often run. When he ran in Grand Prix racing in Formula 1 with Jordan, he called himself an Irishman, but he sounds like he's very English in terms of his accent. He's been racing a lot of his career in Japan. He's now moved back to Europe. He's been working with Luxury Racing this year, mainly as a driver coach actually, but also doing some GT international races, but not the kind of the full international series. And this is his kind of reward for that. And here he is now leading the class in GT here at Petit Le Mans.
Now, and at the back of those 4 GT cars, as the leader comes through them, is the 51. I said, is this going to be an epic drive back through the field by AF Corsa, Jimmy Bruni and Giancarlo Fisichella? He's on the back of the lead group, trying to get his lead back, Jeremy, back on the lead lap, and that is a really significant development if he can get back around these 3 cars, and he's clearly got the pace to do so.
Yes, indeed, and that is exactly what Giancarlo Fisichella, he's the last of those train of 4 cars, the last of the red cars. Look at here, Joey Hando making a move down to the inside, but no, Ralph Furman leads his braking impossibly late on the conventional racing line. He stays ahead of the BMW. Great job by Ralph Furman. Look at that battle there. Ferrari, BMW, Corvette, and then Giancarlo Fisichella in the 2nd of the Ferraris. As you say, John, 1 lap down still.
Just a lap down, though, as again the BMW in 2nd place of Joey Hand has a little look down the inside into turn number 1. They sweep through. Our commentary booth is just to the left there through turn number 1, and we stood on the back porch earlier in the week and watched the prototypes and the GTs go through there. In some cases it really does look like even the GT cars are defying the laws of physics and gravity, and certainly the prototypes, well, I'm sorry, words just can't describe them turning in there at 150 miles an hour plus and heading up the hill in top gear in qualifying. Just a slight lift, no dab of the brakes, slight lift, straight back on the power. It's a thing of beauty.
Yeah, just look at the relative pace of these leaders in GT. Last lap around, Ralph Furman turned his best lap in that car. It was a 1 minute 21.4. Behind him in Joey Handel lurking. His best lap so far in the race, a 1:20.3, a full second quicker. Now Joey Hand, he's going to be the outside line for the chicane, but I think he's got the advantage here. He pulls across to make sure he defends that line into the chicane. So a new class leader in GT, Joey Hand in car number 56 for BMW.
And Andrea Bellicchi in the Rebellion just behind there is trying to hold off. I think that's Tom Christensen coming back through the field trying to get his lap back. The 2 prototypes there fanning out towards the left. It is Christensen, and he's going to have to go up the inside of the Autocon car, and wisely the Dane, the great Dane, backs out of that one. That could have ended in tears. And look, coming through there, that's the 24 of Alex Premat. He's trying to get on the back of Bellicchi, 2 cars further ahead. So 2nd and 3rd, and Christensen down in 12th, trying to get back on the lead lap, with the Ferrari trying to get back on the lead GT lap. Oh my goodness me, are you taking notes? I'll be asking questions later.
Yeah, I am taking notes, but don't ask me too many questions. But that is Tom Christensen. He just passed the Orlicon car. That moves him into 11th place. Yeah, Chris McMurray in the Orlicon car. Let's have a call for those guys. It's a little team that he tries so hard. They were here late last night. They had a gearbox problem yesterday in qualifying on that 012 car, the orange Lola AER. They changed the gearbox overnight, and Chris McMurray's got that car up into 11th or 12th place overall. Excellent job, guys. Well done.
And here behind him is Premat in the Oak Racing car. That is 3rd place overall. And we keep getting the little glimpse, tantalising glimpse. He'll get it as well. There you go, down at the bottom of the hill as the gold and red Rebellion Toyota-engined Lola Coupe just disappears on board with Christensen coming out of the final corner to number 12. As the GTC running order runs across the screen at the top, and that still sees that battle continuing. And look at this, and there also is Timo Bernhard coming through, so and he's now after the back of the 24 car because he's in 4th position and on the lead lap, so all of the lead 4 fighting their way through these battles on the circuit.
Right, but only one of the 4 factory turbo diesels, that is the car number 1 of Timo Bernhard, is on the lead lap.
Yeah.
He is in 4th place. Tom Christensen's now up into 11th, but still 1 lap down, and Frank Montagny in car number 8 for Peugeot, and Sebastian Bourdais in number 7 for Peugeot, are 13th and 15th, both 1 lap down.
And there is Montagny coming through that gaggle of traffic, trying to get back on terms again with the front of the field. And Montagny, well, he's made a couple of mistakes recently at Silverstone. He clipped another car and put himself into the gravel, punctured a left rear tyre, as it looks like we've got a problem out on the race circuit again. Thought I saw a yellow flag being shown there from the last flag marshal stand from the onboard of the Corvette. Yes, it was. There's stationary yellows out around the circuit. We've gone full course caution for the 3rd time here at Petit Le Mans 2011. There's a very slow... no, sorry, I see what was happening there. That was the AF Corsa car making sure he hadn't passed under double yellows as they head down into corner number 12. And this is why that is the Oryx Racing number 20, and that has gone a long way under the tyre wall on the edge of turn number 1, Jeremy. I think that's if we've stuck our head out the back of the box, we'd be able to see that if we looked slightly to the left. And that 20 car has been so good this season. Race wins for them at Baltimore, of course, and the safety crew already on the scene. And it'll be interesting. See these.
Wow, that's buried.
16 minutes after the end of the last session, Jeremy, and I'm just not sure whether these quick 10-15 minute blasts that we get, nobody's going to be liking this because of the fact that they can't get into a rhythm.
Yeah, but boy, that's buried a long way into the tub. That's a huge shunt there for that car, so this is going to be a lengthy caution period.
Tyres have done their job and dissipated the impact. The bands, almost like conveyor belts, aren't they, that hold them together, and they seem to have done what they are meaning to do.
Let's hope so, because it's buried right in there. It's gone a long way through those tyres. There's about 4 or 5 layers of rows of tyres in there, but that's a very, very quick corner, and you're going there at immense speed. We heard that the pole-winning Audi, one of the Audis was going in there at 167 miles an hour in qualifying. They won't be doing those speeds into turn 1 in race configuration, but it's still a very quick corner.
That car had some early problems, Jeremy, and I think it had been behind the wall for a little time as well. A pedal sensor is what we heard about that.
Probably, yeah,
and I just wonder if that has been a throttle problem, because that's a very odd place to have gone off. He's not got all that far round the corner, although he's managed to miss the gravel trap, but the tyres don't go all that far up the hill, so he hasn't made that corner by a significant margin. We'll give you more of that in just a moment when we get more news from the safety crews down there. So now, Jeremy, put your team manager's hat on again, and Nicola Lapierre, Andrea Bellicchi, Alex Premat didn't stop last time. Timo Bernhard clearly did 15 minutes ago. Would you expect the 10, the 12 and the 24 to come into the pit lane?
Yes, because yes. Short answer.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah, in fact, I think we'll probably see again most of the contenders. Yeah, some of the turbo diesels that are a lap down will try and get their lap back by staying out, but it's they'll probably stay out. But certainly the leaders will come in. Yes.
So expect to see.
I think Timo Bernhard will probably come in because he's got a handy margin over the other turbo diesels.
Good point.
So it wouldn't surprise me to see him come in just for a precaution. Yeah, for a splash.
Yeah, get 15 minutes extra fuel. So I expect to see Christensen, Montani and Bourdais in respectively the 2, 8 and 7 come into the pit lane.
Bruno Junqueira there on board the Jaguar. He's been running fairly well in this race. Again, we talked about them earlier on. They had some problems during the week, but Bruno Junqueira doing a nice job. And the 2 extra drivers in the cars this weekend. Ian James is driving with Bruno Junqueira and Kenny Wilden, and Shane Lewis was in the 98 car. The 98 car already out of the race, of course.
Glad to tell you that the team are reporting that Butch Leitzinger in the 20 car is okay.
Tell you that's a relief, because that was pretty scary.
Well, Butch is saying that he didn't jump, he was pushed. So more from that in a moment, perhaps. I did say that looked like an odd incident, and we were talking to Butch, weren't we, a couple of nights ago down at his dad's trailer, and he is just loving being back in prototypes and loving being with Hamid Al Masood and Steve Kane, who he's getting along with like a house on fire. So pit's yet to open. Now that sounds like a diesel there, doesn't it, when you hear that?
Like a bag of nails, actually.
It's just, that doesn't sound good at all, does it? Yeah, I mean, it's merely gearbox noise, in fairness, that, rather than engine.
Yeah. But it is amazing, those particularly the Audis. You stand at the side of the track through these very quick corners. You literally can hardly hear them. You don't. Some of the tracks I went to at Le Mans, particularly, you could kind of hear the tyres squealing. I couldn't hear that though. It's just kind of a whoosh as the car goes past.
So an hour and 20 into 2011's 14th running of Petit Le Mans, powered by Mazda. We're on our 3rd full course caution. Butch Leitzinger and the number 20 Oryx racing car buried deep in the tyres. Butch is okay, the car maybe not quite so well. Nicolas Lapierre leads for the old Peugeot, and we'll be back with more in a few moments' time.
You're watching the American Le Mans Series on ESPN on ABC.
Listen close. That's the sound of an aluminum block titanium valve V8 pushed to the limit, 24 hours straight. You hear that? That's what victory at 24 Hours of Le Mans sounds like. 100 years of racing heritage. Another reason Chevy runs deep.
Meet the Mazda 3 4-door, 5-door, and the one and only Mazda Speed 3. No other car in its class looks like it, feels like it, or most importantly, drives like it. This is a car worth driving. And that's the only kind of car we build. We build Mazdas. What do you drive?
A car designed with a singular purpose. Yet somehow, it manages to be so much more. Porsche, engineered for magic every day.
American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patrol. The fusion of man, mind, and machine in the ultimate test, where the fight for first is around every corner and in the mind of every driver. It's 100% adrenaline. Rip, rock, tear, and burn. But there's only one winner, and only one place in North America to see the thrill of Le Mans. The American Le Mans Series, coming at you this summer on ABC, ESPN2, and ESPN3.
The American Le Mans Series finale for 2011, and it's bad news, I'm afraid, for the number 20 Oryx Dyson. That is the damage that was caused by Butch Leitzinger hitting the tyre wall pretty hard. If you look off in the distance from the 45 Flying Lizard, you just about see the dust cloud. We didn't see who else was close to the incident, but Butch pretty vehemently claiming on the pits to car radio that he was pushed off, and look at that damage. And that is damage that was being done when the car has come to a dead stop on the outside of turn number 1, a very fast corner. As Jeremy was said, he will have some bruises over his shoulders and at the top of his legs where his seat belts have dug into him. I had a very small incident in a saloon car many years ago when I put it into the barriers, and doing exactly the same thing. Somebody got up the inside me and pushed me off at a corner, and 2 days later, my goodness me, I could hardly move. Butch is out of the car and safe. That car has taken the lick, but it's done its job. It's meant to dissipate the energy, and it has done exactly that. And once again, because it was less than 30 minutes since the last full course caution when the pits were opened, everybody gets a chance, and in comes the leader, Nicolas Lapierre, for the Orica Peugeot team.
Number 10 has pulled to a stop on pit road. Nicolas Lapierre will stay behind the wheel of the car. He is the driver who won the 12 hours of Sebring. The crew cleaning off the windscreen for him right now. They're choosing to spray it and scrub it rather than using their tear-offs this early in the race. They're going to save those for later. Fuel still going in. It's a very tight pit lane. We have GT cars coming in at the exact same time as these prototypes. Fuel's taking a little long, and it will not be tires for the number 10 Orca. This is fuel only, and he is out.
Down here with your GT leading 56 BMW, these are your class champions for 2011. They made a driver change, so Dirk Mueller taking over for Joey Hand. We see some sticker Dunlops going on. Quick stop. They're out pit lane behind them. The 51, who's also made a driver change, still in pit lane. And now we see the 3 Corvette. I believe Olivier Beretta now behind the wheel of the 3 Corvette. It's leaving pit lane. And it looks like a longer than usual stop for that 51 Ferrari, as they're just completing it now, right behind the Muscle Milk machine. And I believe Klaus Graf has gotten behind the wheel, taken over for Greg Pickett there.
Very, very long stop for the luxury racing Ferrari, which is still sitting in the pit lane. Seemed to take a long time to get the fuel on, and the driver's still not properly belted in as the new Michelins go on. Interesting that the 51 car came into the pit lane, and I thought they might have stayed out to get their lap back. And the reason it was a long stop for luxury, hearing from the pit lane that the 58 missed his marks. Oh, that's going to cost them a lot, because they were leading that category and they go out well down. So Ralph Furman doing everything right in his stint and spoils it in the last few moments as he gets back into the pit lane and costs the team a lot of real estate.
I'm not so sure that he didn't have to go around a prototype car to get into his pit stop, because it is very, very tight down there. I'm not sure that that's the case, but it's certainly a possibility, because we saw the Nicolas Lapierre car, the number 10 car that was leading the race, that had to be pulled back to get out in order for him to be able to leave the pits after taking on service.
For sale, 1 Oryx Dyson, hardly used, 1 careful owner. On eBay on Monday. That will actually fix. I mean, I don't think we'll see it on this back out today. Oh, now this is interesting. In comes Sebastian Bourdais, a lap after everyone else, and that is very interesting indeed, as he comes in and with a clean run in, and his teammate ahead of him, he has no problem hitting his marks.
Yeah, very interesting. They have been set up on the wall ever since the pit lane was open, but they chose to wait. They're not making a driver change. They're not changing tires. They're simply adding fuel and sending them back out. Apparently the theory being they're back at the back of the pack. They're not losing anything, but I just don't understand why they didn't come in and do it at the beginning.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? I wonder if they thought they were going to get the wave round. Yeah, I think they thought that maybe they were going to get the wave by, and then it didn't happen. So they've got the opportunity to whiz in, top off, put another 15 minutes or so of fuel in. What we have then is that number 7 Peugeot rejoining. He's dropped down to 11th position in P1. Take a picture of this with an hour and a half gone. The Works Peugeots 10th and 11th in class, and you'd have got decent odds for that after the first hour and a half. Tom Christensen, Audi number 2, down in 8th, and leading the category, Timo Bernhard for Audi number 1, with Frank Meyer in 2nd for Signatech Nissan, the first of the P2 cars. Jacques Nicolet, 2nd of the P2 cars for Oak Racing, the 35 in 3rd. Scott Tucker up to 4th place overall, and 3rd in the category. In the GTs, it's all changed again, and it's back to the 55. Crown Plaza BMW leading, so there is some joy down in the Rahal Latimer Lanigan pit.
But it's the 56 car that is the champion for 2011. Joey Hand just finished his first official stint as a champion here in the American Le Mans Series. We were just talking about the dirt that's covered on your visor. I can see it on your driver's suit. What are the conditions like out there?
Yeah, it's pretty dirty in all senses of the word. It's some dirty racing. It's a very dirty racetrack. A lot of cars going off, but you know it's a good time. You know, it's fun to have that weight off your shoulder and already have the championship for us locked up. We can be more aggressive, and I was being aggressive, but you know we still got to get it for BMW, the manufacturer's title. We still want to win the tire manufacturer for Dunlop. We got a lot of Crown Plaza folks. I was glad we could get it in the front and lead this thing for a while. There's a lot of Crown Plaza folks here, and thankful for that. But yeah, it's just a really good feeling to be the champion already and be able to just go racing with these guys again. So it's clean still as far as touching anybody. We'll give it to Dirk, give it to Andy, just keep going.
I saw you have a quick debrief there with Andy Brio, who's the 3rd member of your team. What did you tell him?
I was talking about the balance of the car. I mean, compared to the other guys, our tires are holding up really well, the Dunlops, but you know the car's pretty free getting in, to a little bit of push, to wheel spin off. But it looks like everybody's struggling with some balance setups. You know, the weather's got a lot cooler than it's been, and that's changed the balance. So we're trying to adjust during the pit stops and see what we can come up with. But I was telling Andy just what the balance was and who to look out for, really.
Thanks, Joey.
Dropped down with that pit stop to 9th in category now with Dirk Müller on board. His teammate, though, leads with Dirk Werner, and Guy Cosmo in 2nd for the 02 ESM Ferrari. At the head of the field on lap number 54 is Timo Bernhard. We've got an hour and a half in the books here at Road Atlanta.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G Oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
There once was a hungry road that wouldn't let drivers get very far. It wore out their tires, forcing them to buy new ones time and time again. Then along came the Michelin man who proved the right tire changes everything. With long-lasting tires in place, those drivers were back on the road to saving money. Michelin Hydro Edge tires last up to 33,000 miles longer than a leading competitor. Michelin, a better way forward.
When you think about it, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Hundreds of hours to shave fractions of a second. Hundreds of hours in precision engineering. Analyzing. Perfecting. Pushing the limits of speed and safety. Patron Racing reminds you, when getting behind the wheel, know your limits. We do.
Registering a website address has never been easier or cheaper because now there's Name Silo. Everybody needs a website address. Register your business name and get instant credibility. Got a hot new idea for a product or service? Register it immediately and protect your name and your children's names before somebody else owns them online. With the lowest everyday prices on the web, getting your website address is just a few simple clicks away. Name Silo. Cheap, easy, and secure. Register or transfer a website address and get your name on an ALMS race car.
And we're back with Green Flag Racing with just an hour and 34 minutes gone here at Petit Le Mans for 2011. John Hindhaugh and Jeremy Shaw for ESPN3. And there is the number 2 Audi. as we head over the top of the brow. And that is Tom Christensen, and we're hearing from the pit lane that that car could well be coming into the pits and going behind the wall for some bodywork damage. He's just got his lap back on the leader, which is his teammate, and that is Timo Bernard, who is just behind him. And there is Tom Christensen with potentially a problem that will take him off the racetrack.
Yes, the number 2 will have to go back into the paddock for repair on that car. Tom Christensen said to the team, the car feels fine. It's driving perfectly normal, but the regulations state that when there's open bodywork, it must be repaired. So Audi's choosing to do those bodywork repairs back behind the wall, so he will be going back there on the next lap.
Wow, what a shame they couldn't make that under the full course caution that just ended, because that would have saved them a lot of track position. They're going to lose several laps by coming in to the pits and going behind the wall and making those repairs.
If you just look on that next time we see the onboard and you look to the right hand side front, well, there's the damage at the back, and you can see it's quite substantial, and there's all kinds of cables and wiring loom items dangling out of the side of the car. You know, look at the other side now. Look at the other side, which is pristine, and you see that in there there's air ducts, there's all kinds of cooling areas, there's probably radiators in there, and you've got to hope that there's nothing else damaged in there. Now clearly he hasn't done that on his own, so this is how it happened. Look at the back of the screen, that is the Robertson Ford GT, their second chassis. Christensen coming round the outside.
Certainly wasn't the Ford GT's problem there, because TK, he's had a strange day, hasn't he? He almost lost it coming out of the pits earlier on. They're probably in the pit lane, and now clearly he just sort of cut across to the apex of the corner when the Ford GT was already there.
That is Ralph Juttner, who is one of the leading lights of the Audi Sport programme. Fantastic guy, great engineer, sparkling conversationalist as well, actually. He's a lovely bloke, and he is looking less than happy at the moment about what's going on.
Soon.
I think he's trying to give up, to be honest. He's got one car leading at least.
Yeah, that's the good news, and that's the only one of the 4 factory turbo diesel cars that's even on the lead lap.
No, Christensen's just got back on the lead lap.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, just back on the lead lap.
At the very tail end of the lead lap.
Yeah, he's just ahead, in fact, of that car by, what, a couple of 100 metres.
Yeah.
In second place, Nicolas Lapierre, once again giving the old Peugeot a good run out for Orica and Hugh de Schonack. I mean, dare you say it, with just 57 laps of 394 done, dare you say that they've got a chance? Well, they have got a chance though, Jeremy. We've said this all week, haven't we?
Oh, well, yeah, anybody's got a chance, because we've just seen in the first...
Stay clean.
Yeah, exactly right. First hour and a half of the race, and all sorts of dramas, 3 caution periods, and it's kind of what we expected, and we're going to see a lot more of that as this race develops.
There's the
that's one of the reasons why the Peugeots, they came in and made that pit stop during this last caution, and in some ways you wonder why, because it gave an opportunity if they hadn't come in to get that lap back, but they know full well, or they believe that they're going to have plenty of opportunities to get that lap back before too long.
Well, Audi Sport has never been one just to come in when they're not sure that they have to. They're arguing the point right now with the ACO whether or not they have to replace that body. Right now the team just getting prepped just in case. They're preparing tape panels so that they can bring that number 2 in and tape up the problem area, and hopefully that will satisfy the rule makers.
Well, Audi, as ever, trying to get something sorted out, and I'm sure that they will be making representation, should I say, to whoever it is in pit lane who's telling them about that. Timo Bernard continues to lap in the 111s, the low 111s. Nicolas Lapierre 111.3 last time around. He's 24 seconds back from the lead, but that's great stuff as we continue to watch Tom Christensen and see if he peels off into the pit lane this time. I'm not sure that he's going to be honest. I think he'll stay out until they've got those patch panels made up. In GT, Dirk Werner and Pat Long are separated by 5 seconds. That is Howden Haynes, H as he's known. Those of you who've watched Truth in 24 I was just going to say, I thought Tom had made a liar of me there, will know of Howden's ability to stay still for a very long time. sit on the pit wall, and he was the Le Mans winning crew chief in 2008, of course, with Christensen, Dindo and McNish. Tom Christensen's 8th, just the 8th win at the world's greatest motor race. They've kept Tom out there, and no indication from the flag stand, in fact, that there's any black flag going out for that car.
No, and it's nothing that's sort of illegal on the car, I don't think, at this stage. Not like one of the panels behind the wheel.
Or the louvres, yeah, good point.
Louvres. So I don't think there's any need at this stage, but I'm sure that the crew there behind the wall, they'll be preparing just in case. But at this stage, Christensen's turning very good laps. He's running strong. He's back on the lead lap. So they'll certainly keep him out there until they actually have to bring him in.
Just look at those bright white LED headlamps on the car, part of the... now you see, now he's got something dangling. That's a different matter. And he may get the black and yellow flag for come in and fix the bit that's about to fall off the meat ball. So as they go around, now as he goes into turn number 1. Meantime, in GT, Dirk Werner leads by, all of a sudden, gone out to 8 seconds, because Pat Long had a tardy lap last time around and lost an extra 3. I just heard myself in my head saying it was 5 seconds a couple of moments ago, and now it's gone out to 8. Guy Cosmo doing a cracking job, and he's now hassling the back of Pat Long in the 45, as we've had a problem for the 64 Lotus Evora. Had a spin. It's Oscar Slingerland at the wheel of that coming down to the final corner. He's had a big wake-up moment, I think, Jeremy.
Yeah, let's have a look here. Coming down, whoa.
Oh, he's lost the underbody.
Look at that, right in front of the Peugeot.
Goodness me.
That was a number 8 car, wasn't it?
Yeah. He's going to have to bring that car in, because he's lost all of the aerodynamic downforce from the back of that car. And that car is going to be undrivable through sections like this. Yeah. He's going to be a mobile chicane, not through anything that Oscar is or isn't doing. There is the offending piece.
And I think that was Frank Mayo right behind him, as it wasn't the LMP2 class leader, with Klaus Graf right behind him in the Lower Aston Martin. Those two guys had to almost come to a stop going into turn 5 while that Lotus got out of the way. Just must have been a lack of concentration there, because when you come under the bridge coming through turn 11 there's really no reason to be running off wide there. It wasn't as if anybody else was on his inside.
As in comes the 0.55. And there is the number 2 in the pit lane. Wow.
The number 2 has pulled to a stop. Tom Christensen's getting out of the car, and Alan McNish is getting in. The American Le Mans Series rule states that no other work can be done to the car while the fuel is going in. So the team is taking this opportunity to assess the damage, see what they need to be prepared for as soon as the fueling's complete. Alan McNish is getting his belts on. His door is closing. Fuel is finished, and now the car will go up on the jacks. They are going to go ahead and do all 4 tires. The Saudi crew has orchestrated this. They've read the American rule books. They know what their pit stop rules are going to be. And Brad Kettler is standing at the nose of the car. The team is placing those tape panels on right now to hold in the bodywork. There was a little bit of wiring hanging out. The team stuffed that back up in the car, taping it up. Brad Kettler still standing by. He's on the radio with the guys saying, get it on. One more piece. He sent the car off of the jacks, and now they are back out. So they saved a lot of time by being able to complete this work in pit lane rather than having to go all the way back behind the wall.
And the other thing, Jeremy, was they did that as part of a pit stop where they changed the driver. So McNish has now got in with a fresh set of Michelins.
Yes, but they've certainly lost a lot of time there by pitting under green flag conditions. I would have thought they'd been better off making that stop under the previous caution, which wasn't that long ago. So that's a strange call there by Audi. Yes, they got the car back on the lead lap, but now I think they're going to lose more than that by making this pit stop under green. That's strange to me.
They have lost the lead lap. The only thing that I'm slightly worried about with that repair, and where would we be without cable ties and racer tape, essentially, and a £4 lum hammer, by the way, and I just worry that the air might get under that rear quarter. Now, let's go back to GT. Second place, Patrick Long, 0.45. This is the Flying Lizards. He avoids the piece of Oscar Slingerland's Lotus. And behind him, not very far behind him either, is Fred Machiavicki. And behind Fred Machiavicki is the patron of Guy Cosmo. And that is the onboard look from him. That is the Extreme Speed Motorsports Ferrari. And that is second, third and fourth all together, being passed by the 12 of
it's the LMPC car.
It is indeed. It's the one of the Genoa cars, isn't it?
Yeah. Eric Lux.
Yeah, good stuff.
He's running third now in LMP Challenge, and that would be good enough for the championship. With the other car, the 06 car, it's still back in a fray now, and in fact, somehow it's on the same lap.
Yeah, they have been very canny with the pit stops, I think, Jeremy.
And somewhat fortunate too, I think. There.
Yeah, well, multiple pit stops coming, multiple safety cars coming as they did close together gives you a chance to get wave-wise as well, of course. Now, this is the battle then in GT with Long, Machiavicki and Cosmo. Two Ferraris trying to hunt down the Porsche, and at the moment, Machiavicki doing a very, very nice job indeed in the luxury racing car. Guy Cosmo right in there. Now, who's that just ahead of them? That's a car that's out of order. That's one of the amateur 40. Ah, that is the 51 AF Corsa. The 60. Oh my goodness, that's the 61 AF Corsa car. The amateur car getting a little love tap there from Eric Lux as he went by in the class-leading LMPC.
Yeah, and Rui Agua still shown at the wheel of car number 61 there. Hugely experienced driver, and yeah, that was really looking his mirrors in there. But what a great battle it is developing, and what a super job Guy Cosmo is doing up in the fourth place in GT in the Extreme Speed Motorsports car. That car still running the paddle shifters on that Ferrari for F458. The other 01 car still is not running the paddle shift system.
And that is the only of the Ferrari 458s in this race, and they are legion, that is running that paddle shift system. In some ways, ESM have been really developing, being a bit of a pathfinder for that system. It hasn't been completely reliable. Interestingly, the problems they've had has not been on the downshift with the automatic blipping. Sometimes it's been a bit recalcitrant on the upshift, Jeremy.
Yeah, they've certainly had quite a few difficulties with it, but ultimately they believe that will be the paddle shifter will be on all of the cars next year, they believe, and that's as a result, as you say, of a lot of the development that has been done by the 02 car this season.
Sebastian Bourdais in the 7 Peugeot carving his way through that traffic.
Maybe across there is Ricardo Gonzalez in the 06 car, and after that early mistake,
5th in class, down in 33rd position overall.
Okay, so he is still a lap down, is he?
He's just completed lap number 61. Yes, yeah. He is. You're right. He must be close to getting it back though, because we saw the lead is only that little bit further up the road from him. Timo Bernard, by the way, we haven't seen him for a while. He's 28 seconds to the good ahead of Nicolas Lapierre in second place, and Andrea Palicki another 20 seconds further back in third. 1, 10 and 12, your leaders. 2 diesels and a petrol. I would suggest at least 2 of those cars not the ones we might have expected, as we're on board with Guy Cosmo, 4th place in GT. Let's have a listen to the Ferrari engine down the back stretch. Down through the sequential box into turn 10 as we hear that the Klaus Graf now driven 6 Muscle Milk Lola Aston Martin has gone behind the wall with an engine problem. The V12 not wanting to play this afternoon.
Oh, what a shame for those guys. They got that car up in the top half dozen and were really running strongly. And you know, the other Lola Aston Martin, Harold Premack, took over during that last caution period from Adrian Fernandez, which is surprising to me because Adrian had been under the previous yellow for his first stop of the day, so he didn't run along in that second stint before handing over to Harold Premack. And Premack now is up in the 6th place overall in that 007 car.
Now here's something significant, Jeremy. This is the leader in GT. The BMW is the leader in GT, Dirk Werner in the 55, and he's coming to put a lap on the 58 car, which is not very, in fact, just before the last pit stop, was leading that class. And they came in together with Ralph Furman coming in the lead of the class.
Yeah, but that was Ralph Furman, and this is David Halliday, who's a gentleman racer, of course. And that's, Ralph Furman's the professional in that car, in the 58 car, but driving with David Halliday and with François Jakubowski. So two gentleman drivers in that car, so they're certainly not going to be running the same sort of pace as was Ralph Furman. Ralph, of course, he's driven in Formula 1, he's driven, like I said, a lot of years in Japan. He's won the Formula Nippon races over there, he's won the GT Championship over the Super GT Series only 2 or 3 years ago. So a lot of experience, a lot of high horsepower cars, but thoroughly enjoying himself now in GT racing.
Alan McNish has just passed Chris Dyson to go up to 13th position and 10th in LMP. P1 at the moment as Timo Bernhard continues to lead at the head of the field, and we watch the Crown Plaza BMW of Dirk Werner leading the category. And we've mentioned this before, but it's worth mentioning again. The championship sorted for drivers and teams in the ALMS, but the manufacturers, and of course BMW very keen to get the manufacturers championship, still up for grabs. And also the ILMC championships, difficult for BMW to overhaul Ferrari, but not impossible.
Not impossible. Certainly in the American Le Mans Series, the deficit in the manufacturers' championship is 22 points advantage that BMW has over Porsche, so they just need a sort of solid finish to wrap that up. But what is interesting, amongst the various championships in the American Le Mans Series, the tyre manufacturers' championship in GT is tied up coming to this weekend. Dunlop and Michelin with 154 points apiece. So whichever of the Michelin or Dunlop cars finishes ahead in the race, they will win the tyre manufacturers' championship. And there's a lot of bragging rights there for sure.
Timo Bernhard at the head of the field has just rattled off a 109.7 through traffic.
Goodness me.
And he's coming round to complete another lap now. He's had far more traffic this time around as he comes down under the Suzuki bridge and into turn 12. He has to back off with the CRS Ferrari ahead of him.
Yeah, this lap won't be a 109, I can tell you that.
13.6, that's what traffic does to you.
Yes, it does, and that's kind of the normal lap time amongst traffic, is 11s and 12s and 13s and 14s even. Sebastian Bourdais, last time around, he was a 1 minute 14, although this time actually he does a 1:10. So, that's the variation we get. We're watching it on board here with Timo Bernhard going down through the S's, having to follow one of the Corvettes all the way down the hill and up the hill into turn 5 also.
Just went round Jimmy Bruni through the S's there, and look at the speed differential, and that's not even on one of the places where the prototypes really score. Now let's go back to LMPC and the battle for the championship as we get 3 wide heading down into turn number 7. And it is still the 89 of Intersport Racing and Kyle Marcelli on the just on the outside of the top 15 there at the moment, leading the class by something like 3-4 seconds.
Yeah, a little bit more.
And this is what happened to that car earlier in the weekend.
And it was David Ducote driving the car yesterday morning, and he tried to get going again. David Murray in the Ford GT committed himself to moving to the inside of the spun car, but just as David Ducote moved forward, nothing that David Murray could do. In fact, he did a fabulous job to throw the car sideways, throw it into a spin, try and scrub off some speed. And if he'd have gone in head first, front first, that would have been very, very, very nasty. But good to know that David Ducote is okay. But there was a lot of damage to that Intersport car, the car number 89 from yesterday. Chassis damage beyond repair. The guys pulled out the 37 car. That is the one with which Kyle Marcelli qualified yesterday. A stunning lap that put him on the pole. Unfortunately, because that was a spare car, hadn't been properly scrutineered and gone through tech inspection, that time was taken away after qualifying. They had to start at the back of the field, and furthermore, the Intersport team were told that they had to change as many bits as they could from the crashed 89 car onto the 37. So those guys were working up until 2 in the morning to transfer the engine, as much of the bodywork that wasn't damaged, onto that 37, the chassis of the 37 car. So a phenomenal job by those guys. And Kyle Marcelli, the the youngster from Canada, has repaid them admirably in the early stages of this race, and he's been a revelation this season. He's just 21 years of age, from Barrie, Ontario. He's come up through the ranks in the open wheel series, but he's just gradually gained in experience. He's been racing that in the LMP class for the 2 years that the class has been over here, and he's also done some races in Europe this year. He won a race at Imola, didn't he, earlier this summer?
With Chapman Dakota.
With Chapman Dakota, and so he's a heck of a driver, and I think he's a guy that quite a few of the big teams are keeping an eye on as well.
Now, this is quite interesting. Looking forward from Timo Bernhard's car, leading the race by just over 30 seconds. He lost a little bit of time to Nicolas Lapierre over the last few laps, but look at the way he drags past the Oak Racing car, heading down into turn number 10. Last time around, though, he's gained some of his advantage back with an 11.5 to a 14.1. Nicolas Lapierre hitting that big gaggle of traffic that Timo had to fight his way through a couple of laps back. Comes up on the Core Racing car and goes by into turn 1. Isn't it interesting, Jeremy?
We've got only 4 cars now on the lead lap.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that they were going through turn 1 pretty much flat in 6th, and now they're taking it in 4th. Now back to the battle in GT. This is Guy Cosmo, right up behind the Flying Lizard number 45. This is for 2nd and 3rd in the category. Ooh, big slide there for Pat Long. Look at the difference in how the rear-engine Porsche and the mid-engine Ferrari get through the corners. And they're going past the 58 car, which is a lap back with David Halliday, who's unwittingly getting in on that battle, as Guy Cosmo coming off a fantastic couple of races for ESM, and behind them is Fred Machiavicki, and he is the 4th place car in class in the other luxury racing car.
Guy Cosmo, remember, this weekend they've changed the engineer on the team. Up until now, they've had Steve Chalice for the entire year. This weekend, they've got a new one named Steve Bucknell who's come in, and he's setting up the car differently. A much stiffer suspension for both cars. So it takes some getting used to, but so far, in talking with some of the team this morning, they were saying they think they like the feel of it so far. So that's really important. Also, remember to point out, that's the only car out there with the paddle shifters. Now, going into this weekend, at one point they had a problem. They were concerned that they weren't going to get it right. They were almost ready to dump it, but they felt they'd invested so much time. One of the crew members came up with a workaround that actually caused it to go even better, and now they're very happy with those paddle shifters.
As you said before, they are trailblazers.
Yes, Dr. Steve Bunkle there, the doc, a massively accomplished engineer in Europe, and he's always enjoys coming over to the United States. He's done some work over here with various teams in the past, and that completely different setup. It's going to take a little bit getting used to, but that car running beautifully.
Machiavicki goes to the outside going into turn 7. Oh, very close between the two Ferraris there. 2nd, 3rd and 4th in the GT battle, heading off onto the fastest part of the circuit, the back straight here at Road Atlanta.
Well, it has not been the day that Audi had planned for. Tom Christensen, you had a puncture early, then you had damage with the GT car. How dirty is it out there around the circuit?
It's incredibly challenging. It's unfortunate things happened just after the restart after turn 3. It was very close behind Bourdais. Going over the curb, trying to avoid everything, and then suddenly the Lotus turns in on me and I can't really stop. I'm almost come to probably 0, more or less full stop, and it causes a puncture. And a little bit later I was hit after I outbraked the Ford GT into turn 10 and going out of 10B. I was hit in the back from probably that car, and it's very mental tough out there, and the traffic is immense hard, so it hits us hard at the beginning. Hopefully we can have a good race from now on.
With the damage that was on the car, could you feel anything? Did you still have all the power that you needed?
Yeah, the power is there. It was the puncture, obviously, we had to come in. I think it was not very good in aerodynamics, but apart from that, the car is safe and no problem, but probably not the fastest at the straight at these moments.
Audi number 2 looking to play recovery for the rest of this race.
And what Tom is saying there about the aero is borne out by the fact I've been watching McNish's time, and he's seldom, Jeremy, been under 1:14 as his teammate Timo Bernhard, coming up to 2 hours on lap number 76, comes into the pit lane.
Yes, the number 1 is pulled to a stop. I'm not sure if this was scheduled or not. Fuel is going in right now. They're going around and adjusting tire pressure, so it looks like this is going to be a fuel-only pit stop. A new drink bottle for Timo Bernhard. Fuel is almost complete. Looks like he might have been pretty close to empty. This is a very long fuel stop for these guys. And they're going to send him out as soon as this fuel is done. No other work will be done, and the number 1 is fired up.
Huge amount of fuel going in there. The special fuel, the special drinks bottle, designed by Howden Haynes, actually. And the guys at Progressive Motorsport, that means it's slightly pressurised into the system, and it's literally a plug-in, plug-out with a dry brake. So they've even thought of things like that at Audi, just to save those precious tenths of seconds. So Timo Bernhard came in some 30 seconds ahead, but he's obviously now given up the lead to this car, Nicolas Lapierre.
Yeah, I reckon that was probably a scheduled stop there for the Audi. Certainly it seemed like a long fuel stop, though.
Diesel does flow a bit slower nowadays,
yeah,
of course.
True.
I think Jimmy might have nailed it and said they went pretty long on the fuel.
Yeah, no, they did. And it's been an hour since they were on pit lane, and we can expect to see the other. Who else we can expect to see on pit lane fairly soon? I would think we'd see. No, we could have both the Audis, the Peugeots, of course. They've had unscheduled stops since their last scheduled service. So I'll try and figure out when that we should expect to see those cars onto pit lane.
Now the Signatech Nissan, which was going so well earlier on, has dropped off the pace a little bit. Frank Mayer's dropped down to 3rd position in class and 12th, and he certainly wasn't up to speed there through the S's. That's the black car with the anime figure on the back. Nissan Power.
Yeah, I reckon, sorry, Nicolas Lapierre and Callum Petit back in the lead of the race, and this will allow both of the Peugeots, the number 8 car Frank Montagny, now 4th overall, back onto the lead lap, I believe, just about. And so Sebastian Bourdais, I'm not quite sure because I can't see where they are in relation to each other, but I reckon the 2 Peugeots are going to be due for another pit stop for themselves within 4 or 5 laps.
Power steering problem for the 26, hearing from our pit lane reporters as we're watching the GTC leader, and that at the moment is Spencer Pumpelly for Racers Group, and they're doing what they've got to do, Jeremy. Forget about anything else, get out front and try and lead and indeed get the maximum points. 39th overall and leading the class at the moment by 20 seconds from Lee Keane for the 23 Alex Job Racing Battery Tenders car. In 3rd place is the champion-elect Tim Pappas in the 54 Black Swan Racing machine. There are the rest of the leaders, and we'll be back with more from Road Atlanta next.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G Oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
There once was a hungry road that wouldn't let drivers get very far. It wore out their tires, forcing them to buy new ones time and time again. Then along came the Michelin Man who proved the right tire changes everything. With long-lasting tires in place, those drivers were back on the road to saving money. Michelin Hydro Edge tires last up to 33,000 miles longer than a leading competitor. Michelin, a better way forward.
When you think about it, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Hundreds of hours to shave fractions of a second. Hundreds of hours in precision engineering. Analyzing. Perfecting. Pushing the limits of speed and safety. Patron Racing reminds you, when getting behind the wheel, know your limits. We do.
Registering a website address has never been easier or cheaper because now there's Name Silo. Everybody needs a website address. Register your business name and get instant credibility. Got a hot new idea for a product or service? Register it immediately and protect your name and your children's names before somebody else owns them online. With the lowest everyday prices on the web, getting your website address is just a few simple clicks away. Name Silo. Cheap, easy, and secure. Register or transfer a website address and get your name on an ALMS race car.
World-class drivers, premier road courses and cutting-edge technology. Drivers from around the world strut their speed, skill and endurance. 5 separate classes racing on the track at the same time. This is the American Le Mans Series. And that is the LMPC leader in for what looked to be a fairly regular pit stop. Carl Marcelli brought the car in, and it all looks pretty good for them at the moment. They'd pushed themselves up inside the top 15. Eric Lux was in second place. He has gone through to take the lead, but of course he owes us a pit stop as well. Oh, it must be terrible going down that pit lane at 60 kilometres an hour. Now the V8 GM engine is allowed to come off the speed limiter. Remember, if you've had new tyres, very careful on the outlap, and look how careful he's had to be with that luxury racing Ferrari. Oh my goodness, that's a Peugeot. That's one of the works cars. That's in the cutout between 5 and the back straight. He stopped right next to one of the emergency vehicles. Now, does that suggest there's been a fire there? The driver has pulled up the car. There still seems to be power to it. No, that's just been pushed back. Oh, dear me. This is the 7 car, the pole-sitting car of Anthony Davidson, Sebastian Bourdais at the wheel at the moment. And he was on the back straight, and looks like he's just turned it in. That looks dead stick to me.
Well, you know, he was due for a pit stop pretty soon now. I hope he hasn't run it out of fuel.
Do you know what, Jeremy? You're spot on.
Well,
look at that.
It can't be.
Sebastian Bourdais, what went wrong?
His last pit stop was...
that is dead stick, mate. I think you've nailed it.
He had a splash of fuel, 35 minutes ago.
Oh, hang on, he's looking around the back.
No, I don't think it can be fuel.
Well, it's drive then, isn't it? If it's not fuel, it's drive, and that's what he's looking at. Is that what he's looking at? Looking at the gearbox, maybe? Has he got a long piece of pole that he can stick in there? Yeah, that's what it is. He's got
Doesn't
no drive.
happen very often on those cars, does it?
No.
But,
right, okay, he's pulling that out of the way. I think he knows that something has massively gone awry. It is so unusual to see any of these works cars. We saw a Peugeot, we saw an Audi, of course, of Alan McNish just over a year ago blow the crown wheel pinion when battling with the 7 car at Silverstone. But failures like this are so unusual, Jeremy.
It's that car, I think, that won at Silverstone, isn't it, a couple of weeks ago. Won at Imola also earlier in the season. But that certainly appears to be curtains for that number 7 car.
And hasn't got the 70% as we get the first chance to say that.
No,
so
that's right.
Nul point for that car. Oh, that is the BMW number 56. It was 4th position in the GT category. It's dropping down. Dirk Muller has a problem.
Coming apart.
Being told on the pit lane radio as if he needed to know it's coming apart. He's got to get that car in without doing any further damage.
Coming apart, but just take it easy.
That's pretty decent driving, you know, by Dirk Muller as he's trying to keep it in now. Is that being contact as well? It's not really super hot here.
Stay in, you're going to continue.
No, it's actually quite cool conditions, and much cooler than it was the last couple of days.
Being told he's staying in the car, Dirk Muller.
We're good.
I love the calmness of the voice from the pit wall. You know, the race could be going out the window. Nope, you're staying in. Don't worry.
Fast. Hit your marks here.
Yeah, Bobby Rahal he's been around the sport a little while, hasn't he, himself? He's won everything there is to win, really, as a driver, both in open wheel and in sports cars. And Kelly Savas is down in the BMW pit.
as we see the 56 BMW come to a stop, topping it off with some fuel. Now remember, there are issues with that left rear. Before they said that the last reports were that the problem seemed to have been fixed, that they never really knew what the issue was earlier on in this race. And now we see that we've got a puncture on this one again as the crews are working on that left rear. But and the 56 is back out.
Now they'll be taking a or at least the Dunlop technicians will be taking a very close look at that cover that's just come off the rear. It has come back, not entirely intact in fairness, but they'll be worried that something's catching there. This is a right-handed circuit, Jeremy, so you're leaning on the left side tyres, and the worry will be there is that there's been a problem underneath the bodywork somewhere. Now, the big drama of the last few minutes, with due respect to the 56 BMW, is the fact that Peugeot number 7 will not be scoring any points as it stands at the moment. It's on the cutout at turn number 5 through to the back straight.
The problem is the gearbox. He radioed in, that's what he told the crew. Apparently no warning. As you saw, he was simply on the track, started slowing down and pulling over. It's gearbox problem. Whether they're going to be able to get it back, whether they're going to be able to do any work, they don't know at this point.
Seabass is out, his helmet is off. There's a certain sense of resignation. We've seen pictures like this before, Jeremy. Remember Le Mans a couple of years ago with Montani jumping out the car, pulling off the back bodywork, hoping that there was something he could do to get that car back moving again. There wasn't, and all of the Peugeots went sick in that race. Surely we're not going to see that again from the Lions this weekend.
No, let's hope not, certainly. But Sebastian Bourdais there, he's sort of wandering around kind of aimlessly, really. He's clearly frustrated with that failure in the car there. But you know, we talked about it earlier on. All Peugeot needed to do really to clinch the manufacturer's classification in the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup was get one of its cars to the finish of the race. And right now it seems that they'll be down to 50% strength.
I suppose you can count the Orica car.
No, you can't. I don't think that's eligible for points.
Ah, of course, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. At least the Orica car can take some points from Audi, though, and that's what they'll be hoping to do with that car. Of course, leading the race at the moment, but on a completely different pit stop strategy. The number 8, of course, has now got itself back up into second place because of the pit stops around it. So Montani in second place, with Timo Bernhard having taken that pit stop, 10 minutes or there, about to go, a little bit longer than that. He is in third, and they're all now back on the lean lap. And Timo Bernhard looking forward from the number 1 car. That is Frank Montani, right ahead of him. They've just swapped places.
They have just swapped places. Look how much Montani has pulled out over him. That's fairly amazing. But I think this car, the number 8 car, should be on the pit lane fairly soon. It was last into the pits on lap 51, and maybe another 2 or 3 laps possibly before I think we'll see number 8 car on the pit lane. But boy, look how much he's pulled out over Timo Bernhard in that one lap.
Well, all of a sudden, Montani doing 10s and 11s, and Timo back to 14s. And he didn't seem to have a load of traffic there. I said earlier that McNish in the 2 car hadn't done a much less than a 14 for a while. He's just done a 13 as the Corvettes in the pit lane. Well, at least one of them.
The 4 Corvette is in. We see Jan Magnussen getting out, and Oliver Gavin will take over driving duties here. So far, everything looks to be going according to plan as they've got some fresh Michelins ready to put on. Meanwhile, the number 3 car went straight behind the wall just a little bit ago. I got word from the team manager, Doug Feehan, that they had a gearbox leak. They're still assessing that. They don't know how long that fix will take, but they've gone straight behind the wall. This is a team that prides itself on these clean pit stops, although they've already been penalized once for running over pit equipment. This time, it's good.
And it was that team, the 4 car, that got the penalty for the pit equipment. That is right at the edge of turn 1. That's at the turn 7 sort of area, yep. And that's not the prescribed line for the 60 Aston Martin. No, that's my line.
Michael Wainwright at the wheel of that car.
Oh my goodness, right in front of Montani. Did Montani just scare him off there, literally?
Yeah, boy, that was a big moment there. Huge spin there for Michael Wainwright. And Roel Gotha was supposed to drive that car with Michael Wainwright and with Fabien Giroud. Giroud, of course, a massive amount of experience in all sorts of different cars. But Michael Wainwright and Roel Gotha very little experience, but Roald unable to make the trip here due to some business meetings that he had in Europe. So he is not here this weekend. It's Michael Rayner and Fabien Jura doing the distance on their own, but we saw that car had problems earlier in the race.
Flying Lizards in the pit lane.
The Flying Lizard Porsche in, Patrick Long out, Paulette in. They're going to go and they put the fuel in. Now they're going to go ahead and go to work. They've got the tires going on the front. So far, everything relatively smoothly. Remember, as they come down that pit lane, they're talking to him, getting him psyched up, telling him what they need to do. Now he gets in and is back out on the road.
Wow, what a stop. Fantastic stop from the Lizards. BMW came in behind them as well. But that is the GT battle, and here is the 55 Crown Plaza BMW.
We see a driver change down here at the 55 BMW. Dirk Werner, who started this race, is out, and now Bill Oberlin is in. They're still fueling the car. They also have some sticker Dunlaps ready to be put on the number 55 BMW. This is a car that is still very much in a points battle. They want to finish second in the GT Championship here in the American Le Mans Series. They said it's very important to them. There's also a tire battle going on between Michelin and Dunlop, and they certainly hope to do their part to help that cause. So far, so good here at the 55 as they finish with the final tire. They've dropped them down, and Bill Oberlin is off.
Pit stop for Oak Racing there, as well as Jean-Francois Yvon goes out in the number 24 car that came in well up the pit lane. And in comes Nicolas Lapierre in the Oreca Peugeot out of the lead, and this will give Frank Montani in the number 8 Peugeot the lead, and that's the first time for a long time that we've had one of the factory Peugeots in the lead of this race. They've had a torrid time in the first 89 laps of Petit Le Mans. Timo Bernard has closed down a little bit on Montani, down to just 7 seconds. This looks like full service for Hugh de Chaunac's team. And in fact, Frank Montani will not take the lead, because there he is on pit lane 2 on lap 88.
Yeah, they bring the Peugeot in. Frank Montani gets out. Sarrazin gets in. So far, things have gone smoothly. Once again, they've been very concerned about this pit lane, and it proved correct where they got caught with that red light. They've been very concerned about getting in cleanly, and getting out cleanly. They're putting the fuel in. They'll put in 4 tires, and then they're going to get out of here. Kelly?
Meanwhile, the number 10 Peugeot just finishing its pit stop after they made a driver change and got a full service. They are now out, so they will be ahead of that other 7 Peugeot, Rick.
They're still down here continuing. They've changed the rear tires. Now they're changing the front tires. Remember, this car we saw debuted at Sebring, but they've done a massive amount of work on it since then in development.
So Nick Lapierre out of the leading Peugeot. Frank Montani stays in the second place car, and Timo Bernard has gone through in the Audi, and he then has retaken the lead. But remember, he's on a very different pit stop strategy to the 2 diesel Peugeots, one of the Orecas and one of the works cars that are ahead of him. Massive crowd on hand here at Petit Le Mans, and they're seeing a cracking battle. Come back and see us after the break, and you can see more of it too.
Listen. Listen close. That's the sound of an aluminum block titanium valve V8 pushed to the limit. 24 hours straight. You hear that? That's what victory at 24 Hours of Le Mans sounds like. 100 years of racing heritage. Another reason Chevy runs deep.
Meet the Mazda 3 4-door, 5-door, and the one and only Mazda Speed 3. No other car in its class looks like it, feels like it, or most importantly, drives like it. This is a car worth driving. And that's the only kind of car we build. We build Mazdas. What do you drive?
car designed with a singular purpose. Yet somehow, it manages to be so much more. Porsche, engineered for magic every day.
American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patrol. The fusion of man, mind, and machine in the ultimate test, where the fight for first is around every corner and in the mind of every driver. It's 100% adrenaline. Rip, rock, tear, and burn. But there's only one winner, and only one place in North America to see the thrill of Le Mans. The American Le Mans Series, coming at you this summer on ABC, ESPN2, and ESPN3.
That's Alan McNish that we're on board with there. For once, Alan's got a bit of clear track ahead of him. He's worked his way back to 6th position. Pit stops have helped, of course, but he's picked up his pace phenomenally. And his last lap around was a 1:10.8. And there is your leader. That's Timo Bernhard. Again, on pit stops, back at the head of the field as he comes up to the luxury racing Ferrari number 58 and makes short work of him between 6 and 7, heading out onto the back straight. What a phenomenal first 91 laps that we have had here at the 14th annual Petit Le Mans. Now, for those of you in the United States, 4 o'clock tomorrow Eastern time on ABC, you'll be able to see the highlights of this show. Our broadcast colleagues in the ABC booth are Brian Till, Johnny O'Connell and Bill Adam. And Brian, what a first couple of hours or so of this race, and the drama with some very big names involved right at the beginning.
Well, absolutely, John. You look at the 7 Peugeot being out, the problems for the 2. I keep looking at the Team Orica Matmut number 10. You remember Sebring, don't you?
Oh yes, do we ever. And Bill, you were talking at the very start of the show about the prototype drivers, and we've not seen all of them showing the patience that we might have expected early on.
I think that's one of my biggest surprises so far, is that it looks like we have seen Tom Christensen do the unthinkable, and that he's made not only 1 but 2 mistakes and damaging that car a little bit. Now, hats off to the fellas on Audi for, number one, building a really, really strong race car that can take a lot of abuse and doing a job fixing it up. But this is not a race, Johnny knows as well as I do, where you can get away with mistakes like that.
Well, you know what? And the thing is, the deal with Christensen, that puts us, in the position where we might get to see some magic from Alan McNish. I mean, that guy around this place has had so many amazing races that, it's way too early to see what's going to happen. But, yeah, man, there have certainly been some fireworks already today.
The 66 in the pit lane, the lead of the GTC category. That looks fairly standard at the moment. Notice the little blue bottle to the right-hand side of the picture. That is to keep the driver cool. There's a new set of tyres ready to go on that car, but they're waiting for the fuel to be completed. God, it's a long, long time. Just before we let you go back to watching this excitement, gentlemen, Johnny in particular, are you surprised that we've seen so few incidents between the GT cars and the prototypes, given that we've got A, so many of the prototypes, and B, so many of the guys from Europe here?
Yeah, I really am. The things that surprised me, the guys from Europe, we've had a couple guys get caught with pit lane violations. One of the Ferraris in the GT category that I think Jimmy Bruni's in right now, those guys had a 60-second penalty.
Both Peugeots.
Both Peugeots. We've seen a couple of mistakes, but those guys are fighting back. But you're right, John. I really thought by this time there'd be a lot more, inter-category contact than we've seen so far today.
Guys, thanks very much. We'll speak to you a bit later on the race and have a good show tomorrow.
See you, John. You called Johnny a gentleman, too. I found that amazing.
It was written down for me right here.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys. The 06 Core Motorsport car just in and out of the pit lane. Gunnar Jeanette is back at the wheel.
Yeah, about as smooth a pit stop as you could ask for. Talked to Gunnar Jeanette a little bit earlier. Obviously, the car had the problem, knocked him back. I said, what does this do to your championship? He said, this is a really long race. All kinds of things can happen between now and then. We're not that far back. So while he may be frustrated in one level, he knows that this is an endurance race. You got to be there at the end.
Well, and Jeremy, that's all I can think of at the moment, because so much has happened already in the first 94 laps. If this was a race, a normal, even a 6-hour American Le Mans Series race, you might think, it's going to be tough from here. But frankly, round every corner seems to be a new drama at the moment.
Yeah, there certainly is, and we've seen all sorts of changes there in that class. We've got the 06-3 car, I think it's on pit, yeah, there it is. That's on pit lane right now. We saw the number 89 car hand over Marcelli car. Marcelli, hand over to Chapman Ducote. They were back now in 4th place, and here is Eric Lux with his second pit stop of the afternoon.
And again, that looks like it's going to be tyres, as well as there's a little bit of polishing of the aero screen in front of the driver.
Eric Lux has gotten out of the car. Now think about this for these crew members. They've got tires that are coming off the wall. The tire temperature is about 90 degrees. The tires that they take off the car are at about 160 degrees. They're grabbing the steel rim, the alloy rim, grabbing those, pulling them off. Yeah, they've got thick gloves, but think of how hot it is underneath there, the work they've got to do. And they've got to do it quickly, and they've got to get this 63 car back out there. Remember, they've got a championship to win, and they're very close right now.
Leader on pit lane. Now, Jeremy, that looks early to me, yeah.
That's definitely early. It was in less than half an hour ago.
Yeah, and Kelly is down there as the Audi Sport mechanics go to work. They kind of scramble towards that, but the driver has already got out of that car.
Yes, Timo Bernhard is out. Romain Dumas is now behind the wheel of the #1 Audi, and you're right, there wasn't a whole lot of movement or anything to suggest this Audi was preparing for a pit stop until just as it came down pit lane. After topping it off with fuel, now you see they're finishing off with the tire change. Everything appears to be going pretty smoothly right now. It will be Romain Dumas taking over duties now. They're checking a couple of things now. This is certainly not scheduled. Maybe this is why. As you see him pulling off a piece of the bodywork, and now the engine cover comes off. We'll have to see what's happening here with the #1. I'm going to see if I can talk to someone and find out what's going on.
Well, this is never a good thing, because when they took that rear deck off, Jeremy, they didn't move with any degree of certainty about what they were doing. Now it's going back on it. They've only been out there for, what, 10 laps?
Yeah, a bit more than that.
20-odd minutes? 20 laps, excuse me. They retightened the... Mathematics was never my strong point. Friday afternoon double session wasn't there much. They've retightened the ratchet on the top behind that sort of almost periscope air intake on the top of the Audi, which helps hold on that rear bodywork. Still not a fan of that big rear fin, I have to say. Know why it's there. I'm not saying I disagree with it being there, so I'm just saying I don't think it looks very nice. So Timo Bernhard's gone back out, and that means that cycling back into the lead is Marc Genet. This is the man who was taken out and told to leave the Peugeot squad in the middle of Le Mans this year. When we asked Peugeot later on in the year, they said he'd be welcomed back with open arms and a smile if he wanted to come back. Well, he's back, albeit not in the works car, but in the Oreca car, and he's leading the motor race.
Yeah, and it was the Oreca car, of course, that won at Sebring. We've talked about that already. Can he come back here with the team and win a second one? Well, it's certainly looking good for him now. And Stefan Sauerzen, he'll, I think, just about be back on the lead lap. If not, it'd certainly be fairly close. I think he'll be up into second place. No, he's certainly on the lead lap. And closing quickly, I think, on Marc Genet. There is Marc Genet as he comes through turn 5. And I have to look to see what the gap is farther back. I don't think it's that much, actually. I think it's within 10 seconds or so that Stefan Sauerzen has managed to claw his way in the number 8 car.
In fact, you're spot on. It's 8 seconds as he went through last time around. Now, what about the other Peugeot, Jeremy? We saw it dead stick with Seabass jumping out, looking under the back. Gearbox problems. We thought it might have been fuel or some kind of drive line, and it's been reported as gearbox problems. That has been recovered from where it was and taken back to the back of the paddock. Now, there'll be all sorts of people reaching for rule books, but they asked permission if they could do it, and we're told that that was okay. We've seen this before with Peugeot at Spa a couple of years ago. They very nearly totaled one of the cars. In fact, they brought out a red flag, and whilst everyone else was on Parc Fermé on the grid, they repaired the car in pit lane, taking the red flag time to their advantage, and actually the car went on to win the race. So it's been recovered. Presumably the outside assistance was approved, as we're hearing. So we'll need to keep an eye out, because we thought that that car would not make 70%. Still has an opportunity, perhaps, to do so, as Marc Genet comes through turn 5, leading the race. 1/4 of the way through the race, with 97 laps down. Marc Genet, Ryan Lewis, Bill Oberlin, Lee Keane and Christophe Bouchou are your class leaders.
Changing your motor oil really changed the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
There once was a hungry road that wouldn't let drivers get very far. It wore out their tires, forcing them to buy new ones time and time again. Then along came the Michelin Man who proved the right tire changes everything. With long-lasting tires in place, those drivers were back on the road to saving money. Michelin Hydro Edge tires last up to 33,000 miles longer than a leading competitor. Michelin, a better way forward.
When you think about it, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Hundreds of hours to shave fractions of a second. Hundreds of hours in precision engineering. Analyzing. Perfecting. Pushing the limits of speed and safety. Patron Racing reminds you, when getting behind the wheel, know your limits. We do.
Registering a website address has never been easier or cheaper because now there's Name Silo. Everybody needs a website address. Register your business name and get instant credibility. Got a hot new idea for a product or service? Register it immediately and protect your name and your children's names before somebody else owns them online. With the lowest everyday prices on the web, getting your website address is just a few simple clicks away. Name Silo. Cheap, easy, and secure. Register or transfer a website address and get your name on an ALMS race car.
So we move into the second quarter of the race, and this is how the clean, fast and efficient Michelin Green X Challenge stands. Each of those three categories are given a score. You add them together, you get a total, and the lowest total wins. And it's really important at this time of the year because there is an invite to the 2012 Le Mans 24 Hours up for grabs, and it's Level 5 Motorsports leading the categories for prototypes ahead of Dyson and United Autosports in third position. In the G, yeah, good for them.
Yeah, it is good for them, particularly as the 055 car is behind the wall. Now we look at the challenge, the Green X Challenge in GT, and once again that 02 car. Rob Bell now at the wheel, having taken over from Guy Cosmo. Second place overall in GT for that 02 Extreme Speed Motorsports car.
And just as on the track, the Michelin Green X Challenge is as tight as you like. Now, here's the battle for the lead. Perfect timing as we have Nicolas Lapierre, Marc Genet now at the wheel of that 10 car with Stefan Sarazan right behind him. And it was a tenth of a second across the line. It's not that now, and this is the problem. There's only one line down through the S's. Marc Genet, fabulously experienced driver, and he has chosen to do the sensible thing. No sense in trying to make a pass when there isn't any room to do it. He's got to get off the corner quickly. Bigger engine in that car, but a bigger restrictor in the car behind, and that has told. That was the Peugeot light flash. And that was very interesting as well, as Genet almost had the Oak Racing car having a little nibble around the back. That's Pierre Rags. He's just off the lead lap at the moment in 5th position in P1. That's the blue and orange coloured prototype just sitting in behind what was our former leader. And once again, we've got the works cars, or a works car, leading the race. And the Peugeot number 8 of Stefan Sarazan, a man of many talents when it comes to driving motor cars. Happy on all kinds of surfaces. Impressed, by the way, at the Pierre Rags time last time around. He's doing pretty well. Now, just a few moments ago, we saw an unscheduled stop for what was then the leader. Timo Bernhard came into the pits, gave the car over to Romain Dumas, but he'd only been out for 20 laps.
They lose the lead on a delayed pit stop, and Timo, you were out there. What happened?
Well, I mean, it was a pretty good run we had out there, and everything was running nice. And then somehow we got debris in front of our cooler. So then they called me in for a quick pit stop, actually, or for a short pit stop. And I came in, and then we had to remove the rear cover in order to get the piece for the carbon. I mean, which was blocking the cooler. and because the engine temperature went quite high, and but they solved it pretty quickly. Romain went in, and the car is still out on the track, but I think we lost a lap or close to a lap. That's a little bit unfortunate.
But there has been problems for so many of these teams we expect to be leading this race, so how do you sort of keep the morale up with the team here?
Well, I think now our 5 cars or 6 cars very close together. I mean, still a long way to go. We know we have a quick car, and we were leading, I mean, for a long time in this race, and we got to get the lead back. We want to win, that's for sure.
It's Timo.
Well, we thought there was a problem, but fair play, because they call them in as soon as they see the temperature rising, and then they go about, you know, investigating the problem and making it right.
Yeah, you're right, and it's the attention to those sort of details that Audi is renowned for, and that's why they've won so many races. Because the slightest sign, as soon as they see the engine temperatures going up, they'll realise that there's got to be a reason for that, and they need to figure out what that reason is. And if there's nothing apparent either from their telemetry or from looking at it from the pit lane, then bring it in there. Let's have a close look at it, find out what it was, and hopefully that piece of debris that they found in there was the cause of the problem, and has now been eliminated as a potentially bigger problem.
Now, I maybe spoke a little bit early when I said there hadn't been too many issues for our stewards to look at, other than the really obvious ones of blowing pit lane speed limits or red lights. Hearing from race control that an incident between Patrice Lafarge in the 35 Oak racing car and Chris Dyson, with whom we're... well, there is the 35 Oak racing car, and that is not right, is it? As it's being pushed down the pit lane. And there has been an incident between that and the 16. There's some damage to the right rear there, Jeremy.
Yeah, left rear corner.
Sorry, left rear, yes.
Is missing on that car. And yeah.
That's going behind the wall, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and Chris Dyson...
and there's a little bit of damage, I think, on the left front. Looking just down on the front of that car, from the onboard camera, there was a bit of the paintwork and the bodywork sticking up. Was it a bit of sticker, or was it actually a bit of bodywork? Left front. Oh, yeah. Something not quite right there.
Looks all right. It's a bit of a decal peeling up, I think.
Is that what
amazing.
it is?
Those little cameras, I mean, they pick up every little thing. It looks somewhat larger, but looking at the front of the car there, looks pretty good as he comes through turn 12 one more time. And Chris Dyson, he's got that car up inside the top 10, running 9th at the moment.
And there is the Lafarge car going behind the wall, as we expected. 2 people on the car pushing it down towards the end of pit lane. There's really only one place it's going to go. So many cars in pit lane this year. We often have a cutout in the middle of pit lane. Don't think there's even room for that this year with the 53 cars. Now there's the number 2 car with damage on the front, and that really is damage, not my eyes deceiving me, and that's Alan McNish, who had fought his way back to 6th position but has just dropped back. That looks like there's been some contact. That car is battle-scarred already, remember, from Tom Christensen hitting the number 40 Ford GT.
It's only 5 laps ago.
Oh, there's contact at the back. Contact at the back as well on that car. On the right rear. This time I have got it right. See, I was just looking into the future there. And he's going straight behind the wall. He's gone straight behind the wall. More drama for a big team. Well, this time they will change the bodywork on that. There's going to be a orderly queue going through the pit lane area.
Yeah, it's only 5 laps ago he made his scheduled pit stop there to take over. To take on fuel and tyres, but clearly a major damage there to the front end of that car and the rear end as well. So whatever it was, it's got both ends of the car, John.
Wow, that is very, very odd indeed.
Crew's already waiting for him.
So the 8 Peugeot leads with Stefan Saracen at the wheel, and he comes round turn number 12 now. That's the Rebellion.
Oh no, that was in 3rd place.
Andrea Bellicchi had taken that car over, and that's got damage to the right rear, and that looks like there may be a puncture on the right rear, but certainly the legality... left rear. What am I doing with left? The other right rear.
Which side of the road are you driving on over here?
Yeah, be careful as I go home. I'll have to put the big numbers, the big letters on my hands.
It's so deep in the gravel, I wonder whether they're going to need to bring out a full course caution. That is at the turn
5.
10. Oh, it's turn 5, you're right.
Yeah, turn 5. He's been turned around, hasn't he, coming up the hill.
Yeah.
And, there's all kinds of damage already in the background. He's had a ding with one of the Ferraris there, just going out a shot on the right-hand side. Full course caution. I think that might have been a problem with the CRS car was that was going through. So many red Ferraris out here, it's very difficult.
It's not a place you should have been trying to overtake him, let's put it that way.
Yeah, but he's got damage in the rear. It's like the Ferrari ran up the back of him, or maybe... Oh, look at that rear rim. Normally, immaculate BBS alloy is absolutely ragged on the edge, and that will have caused the rapid deflation of the tyre. Never mind anything else, so maybe that was a side-to-side coming together, Jeremy. And it was the 61. Maybe was it the 61? It's in the pit lane anyway. Rob Kaufman at the wheel of that car, and is he going behind the pit wall as well? Or is he just down at the far end? He's down at the far end, isn't he? Yep, there he is. Down by the Muscle Milk guys. He's come into the pit lane. I'm not sure the pit lane is open, and in fact, that is what the guy at the front with the lollipop is saying. Guys, don't put any fuel in. It's emergency service only. As the recovery vehicle heads out towards it, and there is Alan McNish's Audi in a state of dishabille.
And Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich there walking around to the side of the car. You can see the body language, prowling. Yeah, the body language there, not good. But yet more disasters.
Yeah,
there's cover on the engine.
Yeah,
you don't want to give anything at all away, do they?
No. Now that's interesting. They're working on the right rear.
But I think we should leave all that.
Now there is Sebas talking about what happened to his Peugeot, and that car has been recovered into the pit lane as well. So we've got 2 of the 4 works cars in behind the wall, not just in the pit lane, behind the wall in the paddock.
When the car for Sebastian Bourdais, the Peugeot, was out on the track, they were in a situation where they were trying to actually have them, Bourdais was trying to work on the car, and what he would have to do is he would have to go over, talk to the mechanics. Then he would have to go back, try to work on the car a little bit. Then he'd have to go back and talk to the mechanics. Now you see the car is just coming in, so they're going to have a chance to see if they can't work on it a little bit more. But the question is whether the damage was terminal, whether they're going to be able to get him back out. And once again, there are some rules issues as well, whether they can actually get back out and go officially. Now, my understanding at this point is there's a chance of that, but that's what we're going to find out. But you can imagine how frustrating it is. Just back at Silverstone 2 weeks ago, Frank Montagny was having a situation where he had gone off course, and he was trying to get the course workers, some of the officials, to help pull them off so he could get out of the gravel, get back on the track. It was very frustrating for him. So that's exactly sort of a similar situation. Meanwhile, Sebastian Bourdais sitting in the back will hopefully get a chance, and we understand from the officials, if they get this car fixed, that they will be allowed to put this car back on the track. So all the crews back here, they're getting ready to go to work. We'll hopefully get some more word soon.
Just saw Doug Feehan scampering through that shot as well. Don't forget the number 3 Corvette is still back in the paddock as well. There is the... Thank you, guys. That's fantastic. That is the proof of that particular statement. The Audi of Alan McNish about to get a right, and I do mean a right, rear suspension assembly. It was already built up as a sub-assembly. They've taken the car behind the wall, A, so that they've got a bit more room, and B, more people, of course, can work on it. It's not the only work going on. Look at the guy on the left-hand side of the picture you saw at the moment, blowing out all of the ducts with the compressed air hose, and they're looking through everything to make sure that if that car can be fixed, it will go back out. And there's Howden Haynes looking at that one. Now this car, this is very interesting to me. The officials have said if they can get it fixed, it can go back out. If it's a gearbox problem, you can't change the gearbox. That is not allowed within the rules. You can change the internals of the gearbox, but the casing has to be the same. So if it's a cracked casing and they can't fix it, no good. You can't put the new one on. The old days of the quick fastening rear end that Audi used to have, that is long gone. But if you can repair the internals, then that car could well be back out and still scoring points. We're running the clock to see how far down the road they've got to get. With 3 major teams back behind the wall in the paddock, there's just as much action in the paddock behind the wall as there is out of the track here at Petit Le Mans, and we'll be watching more of it when we come back.
Listen close. That's the sound of an aluminum block titanium valve V8 pushed to the limit, 24 hours straight. hear that? That's what victory at 24 Hours of Le Mans sounds like. 100 years of racing heritage. Another reason Chevy runs deep.
Meet the Mazda 3 4-door, 5-door, and the one and only Mazda Speed 3. No other car in its class looks like it, feels like it, or most importantly, drives like it. This is a car worth driving. And that's the only kind of car we build. We build Mazdas. What do you drive?
A car designed with a singular purpose. Yet somehow, it manages to be so much more. Porsche, engineered for magic every day.
American Le Mans Series presented by Tequila Patrol. The fusion of man, mind, and machine in the ultimate test. Where the fight for first is around every corner and in the mind of every driver. It's 100% adrenaline. Rip, rock, tear, and burn. But there's only one winner. And only one place in North America to see the thrill of Le Mans. The American Le Mans Series, coming at you this summer on ABC, ESPN2, and ESPN3.
There's no place to watch. Hardly anything left anywhere. Look at that infield. Look at the parking in the RVs around the fence line of the 2.5 miles of road Atlanta. Our Porsche aerial camera giving us a fabulous look at the countryside around this region of Brazelton, about an hour or so north on I-85 of Atlanta Centre itself. And what a first 108 laps we have had. Good news for Bart Hayden and Rebellion is that Andrea Bellicchi has been pulled out of the gravel by that intervention vehicle. We know he's got damage to the far side of that car. That would be the left rear, and he'll be coming into the pits to find out how much. Is that going to be another big car behind the wall? We'll find out in a few moments' time.
Down here with Sebastian Bourdais, and no doubt a very frustrated Sebastian Bourdais. Let's talk about what happened on the track. What's wrong with the car?
Well, we had a good race going. It looks like it was going to be a nice day, and unfortunately it got cut short. We lost the drive in the back straight, and there was nowhere to go from there on.
Any indications before it went, or did it just go that quickly?
No, it just something failed. I don't know what it is, but something failed, and I tried every gear and nothing was happening.
Obviously the team behind you working on the car now. Let's talk about what it was like on the track in terms of traffic and getting around people.
Well, it was just like it was all week, really. It just, you know, a lot of chaos and problems for us as far as, you know, going in there or not going and being patient but being aggressive. It's a difficult mixture of everything, but you know, we were just trying to make it through the first phases of the race and see what was going to happen at the end, but we didn't get that far.
Sebastian Bourdais managed to stay out of trouble in terms of all that traffic. It was something internal that's hurt him, and the question is whether they can get back out.
His teammate Stefan Sarazan takes full advantage of the full course caution to come in and take service. Meantime, the other big name that has been back behind the wall, one of the other big names that has been back behind the wall, this car, the number 2 Audi with Alan McNish at the way. They've just ran it into the back wall of the back fence of the pit lane there, I think, as they were slightly too aggressive pushing it out. It was very close. Now, what I don't know about that, Jeremy, is why they haven't changed the rear deck. They've still got all of the tape on the right-hand side of that rear deck.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's an integral part of the car, that particular part of the bodywork, so it's unable to just change it easily, I guess, because otherwise they would have done so.
It's the side panel rather than the rear deck. You're spot on. Yeah, good call. Good call. And it would be harder to change the pontoon, if you like, on the right-hand side of that car. I'm hearing from the pit lane that they weren't Audi being Audi. They were nowhere near the fence, but there was a golf cart that they came close to. No reversing sensors on the R18. That particular option not ticked by Audi Sport Team Jost. As Alan McNish gets back onto pit lane, So we now know that the Audi is back on pit lane with Alan McNish, that they're working on the number 7 Peugeot still in the paddock area. The other big name was Corvette, that's behind the wall in the paddock.
Yeah, and very bad news, the number 3 Corvette out of the race. Dan Binks, what's wrong?
The 3 car broke the final drive. It split the case. We tried to fix it, and it's just not going to make it. I mean, we got a long ways to go. So the 3 car's done. The 4 car's awesome, and the number 50 car's running okay with Labre, so we'll see what happens.
So you've still got a chance of at least 2 Corvettes out there to do something for you.
Yeah, at Le Mans we were first, so we'll see if they can do that here.
All right, once again, the number 3 Corvette behind the wall, final drive shot on it. Now there's 2 Corvettes left to count on in this race.
And one of them, the number 4, the GT car, comes in along pit lane. What Dan was saying about first, the 50 car, the Labre Competizione car, well, that is in the GTE ARM category. There it is. It's already wrapped up that championship in the ILMC. Well done to them. They've had some stellar results, including that win at Le Mans in June. And that is a slightly older version. It's got to be at least a year old to compete in the amateur category. Meantime, its pro teammate and very much a car for 2011 is in along pit lane. Full service for the 4.
The number 4 Corvette has just left after taking fuel and tires. Further down we see, I believe it was the 56 BMW doing the same. Here at Audi we had the number 2 come in. Dindo Capello took over driving duties for Alan McNish after that lengthy repair job back in the paddock. So now it's Dindo Capello behind there. We also saw the number 10 Peugeot come in for fuel. As well as the number 1, Audi made a quick stop for fuel only.
There's a problem for the number 2 car. There's a problem for Dindo Capello and the number 2 car, and that I think is a drive shaft issue. He's definitely got some problem with the way that car's handling and moving forward. They replaced the right rear.
Permission behind the wall again for the clutch, if he makes it back.
It's the clutch. That you heard there. You heard the rattling. And that was Howden Haynes' voice that you heard, H telling them, get back behind the wall again. He's coming in for the clutch if he makes it back.
Yeah, he's got to get up the hill, over the bridge, and down the hill again into the pit lane, and that's going to be a struggle to get up that hill, I think, because he doesn't have much momentum now going down the back straightaway.
Jeremy, I have never, honestly, I knew that, I said yesterday that I wasn't sure, earlier in the week, that I wasn't sure all 4 of the works cars would make it, as it looks like Dindo did snatch a gear there, that they would all make it to the end, but I thought it would be through battling.
Go behind the wall, so it's boxed this lap, you drive to near the end of pit lane, and then do a right through the hole in the wall, and back to the trailer. Do you copy?
I did think it would, I did think it would be more like wheel-to-wheel contact other than attrition, and attrition early on, and parts failure early on that would account for these big names.
Yeah, it is quite remarkable, but you can hear that car rattling. It does sound horrible. At least he did get it over the hill there, so he's going to get it back down to the pit lane, but that car had already lost about 7 laps with that prior visit to the garage area, so now it's going to get even farther behind.
So Dindo Capello's only just got into the pit, into the car, and he's brought it back into the pit lane. It will go back behind the wall to join the 7 Peugeot and the 3 Corvette, which is now being retired. Stefan Sarazan leads on lap 111 at Road Atlanta.
Can changing your motor oil really change the world? Yep. Because this is not just another crude oil. This is new G Oil. Ultimate biodegradable high-performance oil. Made right here on our soil from renewable bio-based sources. So it's time to make the change official. Because if G can race in the American Le Mans Series, you can bet the Redwoods your car can run on it too. New G Oil, only from Green Earth Technologies. Get more at getg.com.
There once was a hungry road that wouldn't let drivers get very far. It wore out their tires, forcing them to buy new ones time and time again. Then along came the Michelin Man, who proved the right tire changes everything. With long-lasting tires in place, those drivers were back on the road to saving money. Michelin Hydro Edge tires last up to 33,000 miles longer than a leading competitor. Michelin, a better way forward.
When you think about it, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Hundreds of hours to shave fractions of a second. Hundreds of hours in precision engineering. Analyzing. Perfecting. Pushing the limits of speed and safety. Patron Racing reminds you, when getting behind the wheel, know your limits. We do.
Registering a website address has never been easier or cheaper because now there's Name Silo. Everybody needs a website address. Register your business name and get instant credibility. Got a hot new idea for a product or service? Register it immediately and protect your name and your children's names before somebody else owns them online. With the lowest everyday prices on the web, getting your website address is just a few simple clicks away. Name Silo. Cheap, easy, and secure. Register or transfer a website address and get your name on an ALMS race car.
American Le Mans Series. Born in France in 1923 with the first running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the American Le Mans Series is the glory and the grueling reality of world-class sports car racing. It's the chain that connects the new and the true sports car fans to an extraordinary racing tradition. This is the American Le Mans Series. And this is Road Atlanta in Georgia. Beautiful day, perhaps a little cooler than we might have expected as we look down from the Porsche aerial camera. We're on our fourth full course caution of the afternoon. This one caused by the Rebellion number 12 of Andrea Belicki, who was helped into the gravel, or helped himself into the gravel, depending on which way you look at it. There was certainly contact between himself and one of the Ferraris as they came up the hill towards turn number 5. And we are on lap 112 of a maximum of 394. Remember, this is a unique race in terms of its race distance. Most races are either timed or distanced, and this could be either, whichever comes first, lap 394 or 10 hours. We've never gone to 10 hours here in the 13 previous runnings of Petit Le Mans. Longest just over 9 hours and 50, shortest just under 8 hours, just under 9 hours, so quite a big difference. Now, all hands on deck, on the rear deck, in fact, literally down at Audi, as Alan McNish's car, Dindo Capello and Tom Christensen, and Dindo it was who brought that car in for a clutch change. Now, I can't imagine, Jeremy, that is going to be the work of a moment. Already the back clip is off that car, and the reason that they're dropping the side of the tent is that they clearly now have to work on the engine and uncover parts that they normally don't want people to see.
Yeah, that's true, and this is going to be another long stop here, so this car is going to be pretty much out of contention. But we've still got the Peugeot, well, two Peugeots at the front. We've got Stefan Sauers in the 908, the 2011 car, leading. Marc Genet in the 2008 HDI FAP, the 2010 car, in second place. And then Romain Dumas is back on the lead lap in the R18, car number 1.
Unbelievable amount of people up there on Spectator Hill. Just behind that, the Aston Martin Hospitality. And there's clearly an event going on here this weekend.
Yeah, something going on, isn't there?
An event, and I use that word advisedly, because this is not just a race. 13 years doesn't seem an awful long time when I think back to coming here for the first time. And in motor racing terms, Jeremy, it's not an awful long time to build the kind of dynasty and the kind of reputation that this event has had. It is truly a blue ribband event within global sports car racing, and we're about to go back to green flag as the safety car turns off its lights, so that must be GT
green.
Yeah, it is. Pierre Eret there in car number 62 for CRS Motorsports. Sierra Scuderia bringing that field back to the green flag, and we go back racing once again.
Wolf Hensler, 8th position in GT in the Falkland Tyres car. 2 race victories for them, one in the wet, one in the dry, one on a road course, one on the streets of Baltimore. And we'll be back there, of course, next season in an extended American Le Mans Series calendar with 11 races. More of that a little bit later on when we show you the full calendar.
Yeah, and Wolf Henser is actually right on the tail end of the lead lap in GT. It's a little bit unfortunate there to be held up by the pace car because he is on the same lap as all the other cars and the leaders in GT. For a while ago, it looked like we only had about 3 cars on the lead in GT, but now it's very much game on because Bill Auberlen leads in the BMW car number 55, but both of the Extreme Speed Patron cars, the Ferraris 02 and 01 are second and third in GT. Patrick Pilet in the 045 Flying Lizard car is fourth. Oliver Gavin for Corvette. Dirk Müller in the other BMW, and then the luxury racing car with now Stefan Ortelli at the wheel, car number 59. They are all on the lead lap. Wolf Henser is next, and we can see it there coming across the line now, all but a lap down in GT.
Yeah, and those cars that you've just mentioned are all within a couple of seconds of each other. Looking back there, the leaders come through. Stefan Sarrazin, Romain Dumas, Marc Genet in the lead 3 cars, 8, 1 and 10 respectively. Wolf Henser's got a decent little cushion there back to the battling prototypes, and there was only 2 seconds between Dumas and Sarrazin really got a good restart, that a 19.4 through traffic. Dumas a 21.8, Genet a 22.9, so that tells you the difference that traffic can make. As here comes the number 1 of Romain Dumas. He's yet to clear all of this traffic, and look at that, he's not that far ahead of Marc Genet in the blue and orange Oreca Matchmuts Peugeot.
And we've got the lead there, battle for the lead also in LMP Challenge coming through there as well, with the number 52 car. Ken Dobson had taken over from Ryan Lewis, but in second place now in LMP Challenge, yes, it's the 06 car. Gunnar Jeanette is now second in that class. And the 063 car, Elton Julian, we saw take over from Eric Lux. He's still on the same lap as the other guys, but Gunnar Jeanette is actually a lap behind Ken Dobson. So the 52 car has a full lap advantage over the 4 cars, the 06, the 05, the 89 of Chapman Ducote and the 063 of Elton Julian, all 1 lap down in LMP-C.
Remember when we said earlier on the never say die attitude was well worth having in a race this long, and then he's up to second place.
He was 2 laps behind.
Yes, of course. But like I said, they used very carefully and cleverly, they used those quick safety cars to make up time, do their pit stops when they could, and they've made up time as other people have stopped. The 66 of Peter Ludwig has been pinged in pit lane for running over the airline, and that's a 3rd place car in the GTC, and of course one of the protagonists for the GT Challenge overall at the end of this race today. Really needed not for that to happen. By the way, that class being led at the moment by the Battery Tenders Alex Job Racing car with Brian Wong at the wheel.
Yeah.
Sebastian Blakemole in second place for Black Swan Racing, and then Peter Ludwig in the 66 of TRG. In the GTM, which is solely the ILMC category, we haven't really mentioned that, but it's quite a good battle at the moment. 62 and 63, Pierre Rett and Mark Bullitt together on the circuit. 2 seconds between them at least. It's a reasonable battle. And in 3rd place is Michele Rugolo in the 57. 4th place is that championship winning Labra Competizione Corvette.
And then that 57 car, the 3rd place car in GTEAM, that is the car that's based right here at Road Atlanta for Krone Racing.
Yes, good point. Yeah. Wolf Hensler at the moment got his hands full because that is a battle for position, and that is 8th and 9th, 24th and 25th overall, but 8th and 9th in GT. And this is a fight back through the field for Pierre Caffer in the AF Corsa car. Now this is he's added on to the guys who are leading the championship in the moment. Meantime, the 55 BMW of Bill Auberlen. Now, someone may well tell me that I'm wrong here, but I think Bill Auberlen has been to probably as many, if not more, Petit Le Mans than anybody else. I've been to all of them, and I think he might have as well. Certainly, I would think 13 out of the 14. Something I meant to ask him the other day when I was talking to him completely slipped my mind. He was certainly at the first one, and I can't imagine he's missed all that many since then. And he's leading the category at the moment by a reasonable margin. He's on lap number 112.
I wouldn't think he's missed any.
No.
I think you're right.
He's lap 112 at the moment, and he's got something like...
Right, so he must have done just about all of them as well, mustn't he?
Good question, yeah. That's a question to ask Butch as well later on. He's gently being chased down by Johannes van Overbeek. Just 2 seconds between them at the moment. I thought Bill had worked a little bit more of a lead there, but as Jeremy mentioned earlier on, through the legion of quick stops that we've had and stop-start racing, that GT battle, which, you know, not much more than half an hour ago we were saying, well, that's split up a bit and there's not really any battles there. All of a sudden, as we click over another hour of racing and move into hour number 4 here at Petit, all of a sudden the GTs are back and running again in close quarters.
Yeah, 9 cars on the same lap in GT. And as you say, a whole bunch of them there in the battle for, well, certainly 3rd, 4th and 5th right now. Bill Oberlin has got about a 3-second advantage over Johannes van Overbeek. And then maybe 7 or 8 seconds now back to Rob Bell, who has Patrick Pilet in the 045 Ferrari all over his rear end. That is very, very tight battle for 3rd and 4th in GT. Just another small gap back to Oliver Gavin and Dirk Müller and Stefan Ortelli as well.
Now this is an interesting battle on the circuit because the light blue car, as we go through traffic like a Monday morning on I-85, is trying not to lose another lap to the leader. That's Pierre Rags, and Stefan Sarrazin is determined to put that car another lap back. And fair play to Rags, he defended down into 10.8. He's right on the end of the lead lap. And as he goes through this time, he will complete lap number 119, which is what the car behind him is on already. Then, of course, he trips lap 120, and he's got to do the whole thing again.
Yeah, he's breaking for a caution period.
Is he ever? Stefan Mucker is a lap further back in the Aston Martin 007, but that car, hang on a minute, let me find something that is vaguely wooden. It'll have to be my head. That car has just been running, and I did say to the guys earlier on in the week, they could snag a podium if that car ran it without problems.
Yep. 4th and 5th right now. First in the petrol class is the Oak Pescarolo, that car number 15, and as you say, the 007 car, well, less than 10 seconds behind, in 5th place overall.
GTC leader, battery tenders, Alex Job Racing. Good to have Alex back in the series. Lee Key driving that. There is the 2nd place car, and at the moment is Sebastian Blekemolen, and he's only 6 seconds back, you know, so we've still got a little bit of a battle there. Remember, he has got to get through to 70%, and one of their major rivals hasn't done themselves any favours, ran over the airline at the last pit stop. Peter Ludwig having to take a stop and go penalty. I've not seen that car in for that. He's only 39 seconds behind. If he's got to add that onto that, he's going to be close to dropping a full lap.
Yeah, that's right, and there's Guy Smith there now trying to, who will storm past the 54 car going up over the hill underneath the Audi bridge and down towards the start-finish line one more time. All these battles in the middle of the field, goodness gracious.
Well, this is why this type of racing is so great, Jeremy, because even if you do have a couple of laps in hand on the guys who are chasing you down, you've still got to deal with passing traffic all the way through almost every inch of this 2.5 mile circuit, and you can't get over how many cars and people we've got here on that infield. That's part of the handling circuit here at Road Atlanta. There's a go-kart circuit as well. Spectator Hill is as busy as I've ever seen it. So we go back on board with the 2nd place. Now look ahead, Jeremy. That is the leader. That's Stefan Sarrazin. And little by little, slowly but surely, he is just closing down. Romain Dumas is just closing down, and Stefan Sarrazin is only, a couple of car lengths ahead. Now this is danger time for all of them. He can't get through there, and Dumas sensibly backs out of that particular pass.
Yeah, that's right. Rather than force the issue coming down the hill into that final corner, he elects to back off and let the extreme speed car go through, and then he'll accelerate past once again onto the start-finish straight. But less than a couple of seconds between the two leaders now, and oh no, there's a problem. That's the Eric Lux car, isn't it?
I think that is.
Elton Julian.
They are very... Yes, it is. It's the 063. It's the
Elton
63
Julian, for sure.
I mean, I guess just stop there, Elton, in the middle of 7. You genuinely, that's as far as you could coast, and if that doesn't bring out a yellow, nothing will. Okay.
That's Tom Knapp there, the team manager at Genoa Racing. Angelo Ferro, the team owner, but Tom Knapp, their massive amount of experience, all sorts of different categories, and telling Elton Julian there to park that car on the side of the rack, and hopefully they'll be able to
caution.
Call it in.
That is the championship leader, of course.
That is a major disaster.
That car was in 5th position in class.
At least when the 06 car went off, it was mobile again at the, after its incident down at turn 12. But
wow,
clearly the 063 car is not mobile.
Mark this one down. Lap 122 for the leaders. Just over 3 hours and 8 minutes into this race, and the championship leader in Le Mans Prototype Challenge, the London project to cure blindness, phenomenal research initiative, which has borne fruit already, by the way, and that car has ground to a halt dead stick. And I've got to say again, that looks transmission type of base from the Porsche camera. That is a very sad sign indeed. He's right on the apex of turn number 7, sitting tight in the car sensibly. And
well, let's think about this. A little bit earlier when we were talking with Gunnar Jeanette, he made the point. It's a very long race. Despite the problem that had happened with Ricardo Gonzalez, he wasn't too bent out of shape. He said, we've got to be able to go the distance. Now, what's really important is, even if this car, even if the 63 car were not able to turn another lap, it is still significant for Gunnar Jeanette to continue racing. The reason being, he's 3 points behind. He's got to make sure, even if that car can't get back out there, if it's a terminal problem, that they make sure they go that distance so they can get some points. Otherwise, those 3 points he's behind could be in the end of a championship. So just because they're stopped doesn't mean it's over.
Yeah, that is actually a very, very good point indeed. And it's only 3 points, but he's got to get the 3 points. It's effectively what we're seeing there, Jeremy.
That's exactly right. Everything counts. Every race counts, certainly. And there we look, watching Gunnar Jeanette as he comes through. And boy, what a turnaround it has been for that core Autosport team. They had that major problem earlier in the race and lost them a lot of time, but they've clawed that back and back into, they were certainly were not only back in contention, but for a long time Eric Lux was leading the race in this car in LMP Challenge. But lately, the last hour or so, it's not gone their way. They've fallen back through the pit stops, and now they've got a problem out on track.
Well, our 5th caution flag of the afternoon gives us the opportunity to go for a break without missing any of the race action. Those of you trackside, tune on 96.7. Hello to you today on ESPN3.com. It's John Hindhaugh and Jeremy Shaw. And Petit Le Mans 2011 has been replete with drama, and we'll have more of it in just a few moments' time.
Can changing your motor oil really